Okay, so good evening, everyone. So today we planning to have a revision session in which we'll try to revisit the concepts which were addressed from weeks 1 to 4. So I'll start off with week 1, and then we'll take your questions after. Once we just go through the slides and all that, we'll start taking your questions. Arup, that's okay, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Is this visible?
Yeah.
Okay. So week 1 was a lot of introduction to many of the things that are going to be addressed, and I would say in a nutshell as to what will be taught in this full course. So we'll just brush through the main things and then we'll go to week 2, week 3, week 4, in which more things will be handled in detail. So let us see. So the introduction video, the first video in which Sir talks about what we are going to learn in this course. In this course, this course is more about learning concepts in programming language. So programming, it is not just learning Java. It's more, it's not focused on learning Java. It's more about learning the concepts in programming languages using Java as a tool. So that was the main idea. And we are focusing more on object-oriented concepts. We start off, we also describe about functional programming, but we focus more on the object-oriented concepts, which is quite different from, or rather, in a way different from what you had learned in Python, because in Python also you had objects, you were using objects without you actually realizing it. So here we are making it more explicit, and we say that in Java, it's a very, very strict object-oriented programming language, in the sense that everything here is an object. You cannot write a line of code which is outside a class which is a template for an object, right? So everything here is like an object. So it's a strict object-oriented language, and so that's why. So here we also learn about concepts like exception handling, which is how to handle the errors which come in the program. You have concepts and concurrency, like when there are multiple threads or multiple processes which are running in parallel, which are running concurrently. So you would have had a taste of concurrency when you learned computational thinking week 11. And then you also have something called as event driven programming. So when you have a screen on which you click on a mouse, or sorry, you click on a mouse click on a button, what happens? So these are like event driven, right? There are events, and then your program is actually driven by these events. So all these kind of concepts, like we'll be addressing one week after the other. So I think we have not started any of the three which are mentioned here, but those are in the line. Okay. Then we use Java as an illustrative language, as I just mentioned. So we also differentiate between, so I'll just come to the imperative, not really going in detail in that, but there is this distinction between imperative programming, which actually gives you step-by-step instructions on how to go about achieving something. And there is also this declarative style, something like the SQL, right? Where it is more like you write something, you say that, okay, this is what I want to achieve, but I am not going to clearly tell you like how you want to go about it, right? So Java is very much like an imperative language. And it is not just, you cannot say that a language is imperative. You can have both combinations. So Sir has also shown that in Python, you can have both. The ways to achieve both types of programming using Python. Sir has given examples in the slides, so please go back and see those. So it incorporates almost all features of interest. Whatever are the features of interest that you're going to study, we use Java to illustrate all those examples here. And then discuss design decisions where relevant. Every language makes compromises. So Sir is also talking about we know of a number of languages, like we have historical languages like Fortran, COBOL, and all that, which are still very much in use. But every day we also see a lot of new programming languages which are evolving. So clearly there are shortfalls or shortcomings in the earlier languages. So there is no language which is fit for all kind of language. So every day there are new languages coming up. Some become popular, some become obsolete. So depending on the applicability of the programming languages, these kind of whether the language becomes popular or it becomes obsolete is decided on how much applicable it is in whatever is required in the current scenario, right? Okay. So that's about the summary about lecture 1. First starts off with introduction. And then Sir talks about types. So basically, when something comes to your mind, something like a data type, right? What comes to your immediate mind is probably int or string or float or whatever. Precisely. So why do we need types? So in the memory, if you see, right, whether it is secondary storage or main memory, the data is actually stored as a sequence of bits. So if you just simply, if you're able to take a glance at the storage of data in the memory, you see them as a sequence of bits. And how do you make sense out of these bits? So precisely, like if you say that, okay, 16 bits, I'm going to say that this set of memory locations, which say 2 bytes of memory locations, I'm going to say that an integer value is going to come in there. And then I'm going to interpret that value as an integer value. I can also interpret it as a string. Suppose I suppose memory location 0 to 4, right? And 0 is 1 byte, 2 is 1 byte, 3 is 1 byte, 4 is 1 byte. You're saying 1 and 2 together form one integer. 3 and 4 together form one integer. But suppose it's going to represent double. Then the memory locations from 1 to 4 together represents one number, which is a double number. So making sense of these bit sequences in the memory, that's where we need to have types for variables. So we start off with basic data types, something like int, float, double, and all that, and then go on to more advanced or rather more complicated, more sophisticated data types. That's where we come to the classes, and we have types which are kind of fine-tuned for specific applications, specific purposes. And we are organizing concepts in our code in a meaningful way by using types. So rather than having so if you are looking at something like an assembly language or a high level language, sorry, the low level language, the machine language, again you are actually manipulating them something like register. So sir has also given an example where if you have to do the sum of two values, you bring them from the memory into two registers in the CPU, add them, you get an answer, you store it in one register. At that point, there is nothing like you have, whether it is an integer or float or anything, right? But when you are coming to this high level languages, you are associating these things to the concept of what an integer is, what a string is. So you're able to associate more about what types are, what it makes you understand things in a more logical sense rather than just the implementation side of it, right? And then it also helps compilers catch bugs early. So sir has also given examples where there is this there was an example, a factorial list or something. I don't know, factor list, list of factors of a variable in which there is a typo in the variable name. The Python doesn't detect it because it doesn't ask for the type of a particular variable. It will just allocate it and will just go on running without generating any error. Is there any question anybody wants to ask? I'll just keep going. If you want to interrupt me, please feel free to do so. Okay. So these are all like very basic.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you said that Python could be both imperative and declarative, ma'am. Sir said that for a language to be declarative, like one of the examples was that you could implement recursion. Since you can also do recursion in Java, shouldn't Java also be both imperative and declarative?
Yeah. So in a sense that, okay, yeah, you are right. Java can also do recursion. Java can also do that. But see, why I meant as Java to be imperative is you are okay. So yeah, I get your point. I get exactly. So whatever you are doing in Python, you are doing in Java as well. So in a way, declarative programming can be done in Java also. You are right there. Yes, it can be done in Java also. So it's not like what I mean to say is you cannot, you don't have to necessarily tag a language as an imperative language or a declarative language. Okay. 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 Some languages also support automatic type inference. Yeah. Okay. So what was it? Yeah. So the sir has given an example where in Python, the variable name is wrong, but it still goes without giving an error because Python does not insist that you declare a variable in advance. There are also so what is automatic type inference? So in cases when you want to insist that, I mean, as opposed to what you see in Python, where you don't necessarily need to say, okay, this particular variable is a type. In most of the other languages like C or C++ or Java, you have to mention, and that you achieve through explicit declaration, right? But there are certain cases where type inference is kind of automatic. Here, for instance, if you say x equal to 7 followed by y equal to x plus 15, and if x is an integer, then it implies that y must be an integer. Okay, so this is some kind of an automatic type inference that you have. Here you are not explicitly stating that y is an int, but you can imply that y must be an integer because x is an integer. Okay, and you are adding to another integer. If the inferred type is consistent across the program, all is well. So in the case of Python, like if you're able to consistently ensure that, this type does not cause any other, and any issue, like if you're able to do that, all is well. Otherwise it will cause issues. And so in programming languages like Java, you are able to catch the bugs early on with respect to these kind of type mismatches. And okay, so that's about lecture 2. Okay, now you have memory management. So you have variables, right? So what are variables? Variables are nothing but names for memory locations. So you say that, okay, int x, what does it mean? You have allocated some memory location in the main memory, and you're saying that, okay, I'm going to name this memory location as x. And when I say x equal to 10, I'm going to store a value 10 inside that memory location. It could also represent number of memory. See, suppose your memory location is of say 1 byte, but if it is an int, which are int variable, which is of 2 bytes, like, then you allocate one memory. It is not 1 byte that you're allocating, you're actually allocating 2 memory locations, and it will say that, okay, this x is actually named for these 2 locations together, taken together. They don't have an existence. Once you declare that these 2 bytes together form a variable or is representing a variable, then you cannot address them as both 2 separate variables, 2 separate entities, right? These 2 bytes cannot be addressed as 2 separate memory locations. So these are variables. So variables, how do you manage the what exactly are the factors that you have to understand about variables in a program? So there are 2 main things that talks about here. One is the scope of a variable, other is the lifetime. So scope of a variable is where the variable can be accessed. For instance, if there is a function, so there is an example which Sir has given. There is a function, say f, inside which there is a variable x, which is calling another function. The function f is calling another function, say g, inside which there is another variable x. So once you go inside the g function, you do not have access to the x which is used inside f. So the scope of the second x is limited to g. So where that variable is available, that is what you call as a scope. Whereas when you look at the lifetime, the first x is also still allocated the memory location. Until that function completes execution, until that point, the first x is also allocated memory. It is still available in the memory. It is still accessible in the sense not accessible from this program, from the current function where you are in, but it will become accessible once you exit this, once you come out of this method, right? So that is a lifetime. The scope is where the, like, it could be a for loop, it could be a function, it could be a public method or private method or whatever, right? That is a scope. Whereas a lifetime is whether the storage is allocated for a variable. So how do you maintain the scope, and how do you address the ambiguity? So for instance, you see that the function f has a variable x and the function g also has a variable x. So how do you resolve the ambiguity in identifying which x are you talking about? So these are handled using what are known as activation records. So activation records are implemented using what are known as stacks. So in the memory, you have, you know how a stack is handled, right? You have a push operation and a pop operation. So whenever you are currently you are running a function, you push that function, all the details regarding that functions. For instance, the variables, the method calls, the return value, the control link, all these values you put inside the stack. and you call another method when you are transferring the control of execution, right? When the control of execution gets transferred to new method, that method also gets added to the activation record, and that is what is currently getting executed. So the variables corresponding to that will now be on the top of the record. So why is this required as a stack? Why is this not implemented as a queue? Because whenever you are going from one function to within another function, then calling another function, then calling another function. So say suppose you're calling, you are in F1, you're calling F2 from F1, F3 from F2, F4 from F3. Then once you finish F4, you have to come back to F3. And then from F3, you have to come back to F2. And from F2, you have to come back to F1. So until you have come back from F3 to F2, the variables inside F1 should not be accessible because it will cause some ambiguity. So for that, you will just pop what is currently the latest function or the calling function, right? So there are a little more subtle details about this, which we won't be going into, but this is the plain idea. So if you have a stack, why are you using it as a stack instead of a queue? What you want to do is you want to return immediate back to the function which called it, the immediate function which called it, right? It is not that function, two functions before that called it, but it's immediate function which called it. That's why you're making use of a stack. So controlling points the previous activation record. So why is that required? Because you don't know how much, so say function F1, F2, F3, F4, all of them may be occupying a different amount of memory, right? So you don't know, once you finish this activation record, you want to go back, return your control to the previous activation record. So you store a link, you have a memory location inside the current activation record, which says that, okay, after this, you go to this particular memory location because that's where we came from. So you have to go back to that memory location. So that's what the control link does. Return value link tells it where to store the result. So if there is a return value, say sum of two integers, and you want to return this, now this function finishes its execution, and after that it is no more accessible, right? But the return value has to be accessible. So what does it function have to do? Before it goes out of like not being accessible, it has to store the value that it has computed into the activation record of the calling function. And that is where the return value link, that is where the return value link is the address of that location. And that is where it has to store the return value. Now there are two ways to initialize parameters in a function. So these are all like connected. When you watch Sir's lectures, you would know how these are like connected. I'm just summarizing the key points. There are two values to initialize parameters. I think Bhaskar has addressed this in a number of live sessions. So when you say call by value and call by reference, there are two ways to call a function, right? So when you're calling by value, both copies are maintained, but when you're calling by reference, ultimately both of them will start pointing to the same location. So call by reference, because they are now both going to point to the same location, it can have side effects. It can cause unexpected and unwarranted side effects. So you have to be very careful when you're using references for call by, when you're doing a call by reference. Yeah.
So in call by reference, there is no copy created, right? It will be manipulating the original value itself. Or I'm a bit confused about.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Yeah. Call by value is where you have a copy. Call by reference is you are actually, when you are actually saying call by reference. So in the case of Java, say it happens for arrays, right? So when you're calling, say, list of A, and then the method is taking that list of A, that variable and this variable will now point to the same location. So whatever changes you make inside the method, it will reflect in the array itself.
Ma'am, you just told us that everything activation record is a stack, right, ma'am?
Activation record is not a stack. Activation records are maintained in stacks.
Okay, so ma'am, what happens when you call the same function within itself, like in the recursion?
It will create, yeah. Sir has given the example, no, the factorial example. When you call factorial 3, that will be the bottommost, and then the whatever factorial 2, that will come just above that. Then if the next one factorial 1, that will come above that, right?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Now, the exact example sir has given is for a recursive function only. Yeah.
This call by reference is shallow copy and call by value is a deep copy, no? Hello?
Yeah. So, is there any other way? Is it always relatable? I'm not sure. So, Bhaskar, do you want to answer that?
Bhaskar sir explained in one lecture. I'm just confused now. That's
Can you just repeat? I could not properly hear.
Sir. So call by reference is a shallow copy, no? And call by value is a deep copy. In one of the lectures, you referred it like that.
Yeah, you see, the idea is when we do call by reference, right? Actually, in Java, I discussed it in the previous session. We do not do call by reference. It is actually we are passing the address as a value, right? So we are passing the address as a value. Okay, anyway, so leave that. Keeping that aside, if we are passing address, that means the only memory location is there. You are referring to that memory location. So that is kind of deep copy, but there is nothing copying, right? You're not copying anything. I mean, you're just passing a parameter to somewhere else where you want to access it. That's it. Copying would come into question when you are trying to copy a variable or an object or anything to another variable of the same type. So then we have shallow copy and deep copy. And then if you go into each address and pick the value, that is deep copy. And if you directly just copy the same location, that is shallow copy. Okay, but yeah, if you want to just relate it with the idea, then maybe you can call it as shallow copy, right? Simply you passing the reference is kind of shallow copy. Okay, but it is not proper to say that call by value is deep copy or shallow copy. I mean, the things are different. Yeah, that yeah.
If two variables are located to the same location, that's like a shallow copy, no?
If you copy it, then it is shallow copy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Okay, but
thank you.
Yeah, but call by reference and value is when you're passing parameters to function. Whether shallow copy, deep copy is more to, I mean, you're copying something into another. So yeah. Okay, so they may seem similar or maybe look like similar, but they are two different ways of working. I mean, not ways, they are two different things. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
So is traversing through an array call by reference? Like calling the elements.
No, so what do you mean?
Making sure I'm still confused.
See, these are the call by value and call by reference are for parameters of a function, right?
Okay.
So what do you mean by going through an array?
Like reading out the elements or from the array.
Is the array a parameter to a function?
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, that's what I said. No, so when you are passing as an array, it is passed as a reference.
Okay, fine. Okay, thank you.
In general, so there could be specific cases, but whatever we have done, as far as I understand, is called by reference. Okay, so yeah, it basically what the calling function, right? That the calling function has a variable name inside whatever it is calling, and the called function, the function called and the definition of the function, these both have two variables. No, they both eventually point to the same location. Whereas if you're just saying, say, int a comma b, and in the definition of int sum bracket a comma b, and in the definition you have, say, sum of int a comma int b, then this a and that a are different. Whereas if it is an array, then these both will point to the same location.
Yes, ma'am, got it. Thanks.
Okay, so as I said, activation records. So does anyone have any other questions? I see so many questions on the chat. I'm not able to check it right now. If you want, please unmute yourself and ask. Okay, so heap, what is heap? So this heap is not the heap data structure that you've heard of, that again Sir's. So somebody has asked whether they see the slides, summary slides in Sir's lectures. These are exactly the summary slides in Sir's lectures. We are just trying to recollect all these for a revision session. Okay, so yeah, so I have added maybe just 1 or 2 extra points. So these are almost exactly the same summary slides that Sir has. Okay, so in activation records, yeah, so we maintain it as, somebody was asking something.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to know that what's the control link is there then?
Control link. Previous activation record, no?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so
And
that
what-
is because, yeah, and
what's the use of that, and that when we do this?
control link, is it?
Yes.
Okay, so what you when you are calling, say you have a function f1 from inside which you're calling, say, function f2. Okay. Now you're on in function f2. So suppose in function f1 you have to evaluate an expression. Say you have to find the sum of two variables, then the product of two variables, one of which is the sum of that previous variable. Okay, let me just write it here. I don't know if you can see this. Okay, comma b comma c. Okay, okay, you have c equal to a plus b. Okay, and then okay, let me just 1 second. That's probably not the best example. Let me just, c equal to sum of a comma b, and say d equal to product of c comma. Okay. Now you are calling the function. No. Sorry, you have to call something within that. No. Sorry.
Or ma'am, can we take an example? One of the example is there, so we can do better from there.
Which one? Sir's lectures, is it?
Yes, the practice assignment question number 9.
Okay, I don't have access. Just give me a minute. Okay, maybe I'll just try this once. Maybe I just try with a generic example. Okay, let me see. If you have F2 here, okay. Now in the activation record, you have F1. So I'm just showing it from bottom. Sir has shown it from top. Okay, this is the activation record for F1, and this is the activation record for F2. Okay. Now F1 and F2 are two separate functions, right? And when they are put inside the activation record, they both need different amount of memory. Is it correct?
Yes.
So when F2 is, when you say that you are transferring control to F2, you are going to start executing the instructions inside F2, right?
Yeah.
Once you do that, you finish it, you want to access the activation record of F1. Now you don't know where the memory, at one point of time, the CPU keeps track of the current execution instruction. So the memory location of the current instruction only. Now, after executing F2, the CPU has to know where it has to go back to get the access to F1. So you have something called as a control link, which will take you back to the activation record of F1. That is something like a memory location, right? It is, a link is nothing but a pointer to another location. That's it. It's another address, memory address.
Okay, so we don't have to think about that, because whenever we write the program, actually we care about the return value. So which is returning the back to the, so control link is actually working in the backside of the.
All these are working in the background. We don't have to worry about it. These are all internally taken care of by the operating system.
Okay, yes, because whenever we write the recursion, we take care about that where the returning is going back. So we think about that in designing the program, but control
no,
link,
that is different. You are thinking about the return value, not the return value link. See, this is return value link. You are not thinking about return value link at all. Link is a pointer or an address to a memory location. Okay. As to where you have to store the result. You are only worried about the result, the value.
Yes.
You are not thinking about where to store it. Those things are all hidden away from you. Like, these are all taken care of by the operating system. You don't have to worry about it.
Okay. Now got it. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry, just operating system or compiler? Which one will do that?
Okay, so basically, whatever the compiler does, it has to interact with the operating system to reach the hardware.
Right, but the fact that we have this stack which contains the activation records,
okay, just hold on. Just hold on. 1 second. 1 second. Where are these activation records coming? Are they coming during compilation or runtime?
Okay, got it. They're coming during runtime. So
Yeah.
the instructions are already there. Therefore,
yeah, you have a compiled,
okay.
every compiler is basically translating to the low level instructions, right?
Yeah.
So these are all runtime things. So, okay, there are little more complicated things. So maybe in the degree level, you could, I mean, I don't know, yours is computer science background?
No, ma'am, but it's okay. I think it
You
was
got
not
some
a very
idea, right? Yeah,
important.
some
Yeah,
idea.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, got it. Okay.
I was
Yeah,
just
ma'am.
a little surprised that you said operating system. So that's all.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean,
Excuse me, ma'am.
that's not to complicate you, but yeah, I mean, that's a, yeah, okay. Yeah.
The memory stack, is it dynamic or static? Like, is it the heap is dynamically allocated? It allocates data dynamically. How does the active memory stack do it?
Okay, so sir says that these are statically allocated, right? Is that what you're asking?
Yes,
I mean,
ma'am.
activation records are statically allocated, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so when you say statically allocated, right? So it is the amount of memory that is required for this activation record is clear the moment you call that function, right? Whereas,
okay, ma'am.
Yeah, whatever are the links inside that, right? Say there is a linked list, which is a data variable, okay? So these may not be stored inside the activation record, no? This will be like somewhere in a heap. That is
Okay, ma'am.
outside.
I got it, ma'am.
Yeah.
I got it, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. So shall I go ahead? Okay. Fine. Okay, so heap is, okay, so I think that is kind of clear. So heap is used to store dynamically allocated data. It outlives the activation record. Why? Because, see, suppose you have allocated a linked list and you're passing that to the calling function. So when you said call by reference, right, it still points to the same location. So it will outlive the activation record that created, I mean, that from where it was allocated data, it was some manipulation of data was done and all that. And those values are still to be accessed by some other function, some calling function, right? So in that case, this is still to be accessible, but certain times these have to be destroyed. And that is where two ways of doing it is there. One is the manual deallocation, the other is the automatic garbage collection. So sir has also explained the advantage and disadvantage of both. Manual allocation, manual deallocation is something you might forget to write a free statement. And in the case of garbage collection, it can actually lead to some performance impairment because your program is sometimes running along with the garbage collector, as well as it could interfere with the data that you are trying to access and all that. So sir has clearly distinguished between the two advantage and disadvantage of both. So if you want to have it, you can just go through the lectures once again. Okay. I think I have to, yeah. Okay, now is abstraction and modularity. Okay, so solving a complex task requires breaking into manageable components. So there are two ways to solve problems. I think this is not in general, not in reference to our Java programming language or anything. In any problem solving, I think there are two ways of doing it. So here the top-down approach is something like you have the big problem in hand and then you try to divide into chunks. And then probably from each of those chunks, you divide it further into smaller subtasks and then address each individually and then bring back everything together. In the case of bottom-up approach, you are actually looking at starting from the smaller building blocks, the smallest possible building blocks, and then trying to put everything and build it up together. So which do you think Java works? I mean, Java, you can mostly relate Java to which kind of sorry?
The bottom-up approach.
Yeah, in general, yes, bottom-up approach. Okay. So if you give me, you could also think about cases where it does some kind of top-down, but yeah, in Java is known to work in a bottom-up approach. Okay. Now you have components. So what are components? Components are the small units which are manageable. In a complex task, you have small units which are manageable. So each component has something known as an interface and a specification. So if you compare, so if you are talking in terms of Java, I can say that a function, what aspect of a function is that the other components see. Something like the function header, the parameter type, the return type, everything, right? So what is inside the function is not visible to the world outside. It need not be visible to world outside. In the main method, you're calling a method inside another class. In that case, you only need to know the return type of that function, the name of that function, the arguments of that function, basically the function header, right? So that's the interface. That is the function's interface with the outside world, the header, right? That is the interface. And specification is what you are actually, the behavior of that function, what is there inside. So that is generally private. You don't really need, the outside world doesn't have to know about it. Whereas the outside world cannot interact with the function without knowing the interface. So something like the interface that we have, the GUI that we have, it's an interface between the operating system and the human beings, right? So we use the GUI to interact with the operating system or the machine as such, right? So something like that's an interface. And then whatever happens inside the function is a specification of that function. So we build prototype, implementation to validate this. And so these are all like description of how you validate the components and all that. And re-implement the components independently, preserving interface and specification. Okay, so from a programming language perspective, what do we need? So in the case when we need abstraction, when you want the finer details to be hidden and the support has to be given by the programming language, what are the two things that you need? One you need is a control flow. Like whenever we look at the Java program, we say that, okay, what is the entry point of the program? Main. That's the control flow. The control of the program flow is starting from the main program. And then you see that, okay, there is a function call that is happening. And then it goes to that function call. That is how the flow of control happens via the functions and procedures. I'm just relating to Java, but most programming languages, this is what happens, right? And then you need to have some control over the data. And this is what is achieved using the abstract data types and the object-oriented programming. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay. Okay, so object-oriented concepts, like objects are like abstract data types. Yeah, there is a uniform way of so all these concepts, I'm not going in detail to abstraction, subtyping, dynamic lookup, and inheritance because these are handled in detail in the coming lectures. Just one brief word I'll tell about all these. Abstraction is, so you have a public interface, as I was saying, right? The public interface is the function header that the other components use to interact with a function or a method or whatever. And then the private implementation is, so here the implementation, what sir refers to is the data inside, the private data, right? Private data inside the method, which doesn't have to be accessible to the outside world. This method will access that variable using the input-output behavior that is defined inside the method. And that is private. That is private to the outside world. Okay, so you have a public interface and a private implementation like the abstract data types. Then you have subtyping. So subtyping is, say suppose you have a type A and you have B, which is a subtype of B. Then sir also says that, okay, you look at the superset subset relation, right? So all the features, or how do you, so you have say A is a subtype of B, right? Then yeah, A is a subtype of B, then A has all the features of B and some extra features. But okay, maybe if you look at it, this superset, how do you say that? Okay. So why is, okay, let me put it this way. Okay, you have a set of natural numbers, right? Then you have a set of even numbers, right? So this is say E, okay, and this is say N. E is a subset of N, but E has more features than N, right? Why? Because E has one additional property, which is E all the numbers in E are divisible by 2. That is how you refer to as a subtype. So E is very much a natural number, but E has some additional features as compared to N, which is that every number in E is divisible by 2. So that's how you can look at the subtyping as. I mean, I think many people had confusion about the subtyping and inheritance and all that. So I think that will become more clear in the, I think, second or third week. I'm not sure.
Yeah, third one.
Third week. Okay. Is this example clear? I mean, I kind of try to memorize it like this, it might look like, when this is a subset of this will have fewer features, but that's not so. And this is a subtype of it. It has all the features plus extra features, like something like this. This is a bigger set, but this has all the features of this is very much a natural number, but this has some additional features. Okay. Okay. Now, dynamic lookup is something like during the runtime is when the method implementation is chosen. So that again will be explained in detail. Inheritance, of course, the use of implementations, right? You have multiple implementations and like basically functions which you kind of keep, you can call it again and again and again, right? So the method overriding and all that, right? Okay, I think I'm confusing. Okay, those things will be handled in detail in week 3. Okay, we'll come to that. And then, yeah. Okay.
Briefly explain dynamic lookup, please.
Yeah, that's what I said. That will come in week 3. Okay. No, the method implementation being decided at runtime, right? That is okay. So, see, suppose you have, say, Aru, please tell me if this is a wrong example. Okay. You have, say, class A, class B extends to
Or is it the same thing like dynamic dispatch?
No, dynamic dispatch is different. Dynamic dispatch, so it is actually different from if you're talking about overloading, right? That's what you mean, no? Dynamic dispatch is with respect to overloading, right? Is this Bimlesh who asked the question? I'm not sure who asked the question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Bimlesh, is dynamic dispatch related to overriding? Do you know that? Sorry,
overriding.
Overloading. Based
I
on
guess
the
dynamic dispatch was when like two classes have the same function. So which one should be taken when we are calling from inherited keys?
Yeah, it is the choice of the method on the runtime,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, on
which
the runtime
version of the
matters.
method has to be invoked.
So it's about overloading, right? Based on the argument, right?
Dynamic dispatch.
No, arguments are
overriding
same.
or overloading?
It's overriding, right?
It will be overriding. Yes.
Yeah,
It is overriding.
Okay. Okay, so I don't think that is, I'm not sure. I don't want to confuse you. I think this will be, so Arup, you want to add something to that?
I'll
Dynamic
take it.
dispatch?
You can just skip this portion. I'll
Yeah,
do it.
you are handling week 3, right?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
3.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So okay. So this is like class is a template and object is an instance of a class. So there is, I don't think there is anything much in this. So okay, I think we'll go to week 2. Okay.
Okay, sure.
So who is handling week 2?
Nalini.
Yeah. Okay, Nalini. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, ma'am. So the first thing, am I audible?
Yeah, Nalini.
Yeah, thanks, sir. Yeah, the first thing which you have seen in Victo is like how to print hello world using Java program. So in Python, it's very simple, right? You just write a print in brackets, you will give hello world string. But in Java, it's not like that. No, you have like many things here. So the first thing here is like you have defined one class hello world. Inside that there is a main method, and inside that you are writing system.out.println of hello world. So here should be extra what this string, what double quotes here, I missed that, sorry. Yeah, so yeah, this is not as simple as Java, no. So what you are saying is like your code is enclosed in a class. So everything which you write in the Java will be in a class. So not this is not specific to hello world. Like whatever code you write in the Java, the whatever code you write in Java will be in some class. Yeah, this is one kind of example of one program of Java. So like you are defining hello that system.out.println in one class hello world, and there is one main method here. So it's not like every class should have this main method. It's not mandatory for every class to have main method. So yeah, but the point of execution of your program will start from main method in Java. Yeah, so it is not necessary like in all programs you should write main method, but yeah, but if you want to execute something using Java, you should have main method in your class.
So if two
Okay.
classes have main methods, then what will happen?
Yeah, in a single program, it's two classes cannot have main
Okay, okay,
method. Yeah.
okay. So okay, I got it.
Yeah, but you can have many classes in a file. In a file, you can have many classes, but only one class will have the main method. Okay. Is it
Yeah,
clear?
got it.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
okay. Yeah, okay. So these are the statements. A Java program is collection of classes, which I have told. All the code in Java lives within the class. Okay, you cannot write a single statement outside your class. So everything which you write will be in some particular class. So you have like you are seeing here many things, no, public, and this is class, and this is the name of the class. Hello world is the name of the class. So class is a keyword for what? For defining it, for what? Defining a class. So public is some modifier which specifies the visibility. So these things like public, private, default, all the things you have like sir has explained in the lectures also, like in many live sessions also, Arup sir and Bhaskar has explained this. Yeah, I will tell this. If something is public, you can access that from anywhere, like not within the you can access them from anywhere. Like this is, yeah, if you want to know more details, then you can rewatch them. Yeah, the thing is like this class is a keyword, and hello world is the name of the class, and public is the modifier. And this main method, coming to the main method, you like as other methods, main method also has some input, and also it has also has return type. So every method must have some return type and input. Like it is not necessary like the input can be anything, right? So you can give input or you cannot give input. So here this main method is taking array of string array of args. Like this is like args is of type string, and you are passing array of arguments to that. Yeah, then you are writing system.out.println of hello world. Yeah, these things, what is system out.println, this is like yeah, these things are already discussed in live sessions. So if you want to know the more details, you can rewatch them, but I'm not going more into more details because this is just a recap of week 2. No, yeah. So the signature of the main, the input parameter is an array of strings, and these are command line arguments, no output, so the return type is void. So if your function is returning something like addition of two numbers, then the return addition of two integers, then that method is returning an integer as output, so the return type must be int. But here this is not returning anything, so the return type is void because you have not seen return statement in this method, no. So you can specify return type as void. If there is return type in this method, if it is returning some integer or double, you should specify it in the function signature, like in that definition. While declaring your function or while defining it, you should specify that. So the Java program is write once, run anywhere, because
Madam, I have
Java.
a doubt, if I may ask.
Yeah, you can.
This doubt is about the return type. So in one of the practice assignment,
Okay.
Which asked us to deploy callback, there was a graded practice assignment regarding EVM and voter. So one of the methods I saw which really confused me was the return type that I declared in the function definition would be the object of a voter.
Okay.
But the return would depend on some condition. If a voter object is already in existence, then I'll return null. If it's not, then I'll return a new voter object. So if I have declared that I'll return a voter type object, but I'm returning null in some of the cases, is it legal?
Yeah, Bhaskar, I think you can, EVM is like. Yeah, Bhaskar, are you there? Arup sir or Bhaskar, like, do you want to tell this? Like, whether like you are telling if we are defining something.
Yeah, can you take the question later, because I think we need to open the program. Otherwise, I cannot like find it out like what you're exactly.
So like he's telling like object, you are mentioning like return type of some method is some object. The method is returning some object, but in method you are writing some condition. If something is this, then you should return null. So is that valid? You are specifying some.
Yeah, null is the object type, right?
Okay.
So it could be written.
Yeah,
null could
no, I have defined a specific object type. Suppose I have defined a class voter, and I am trying to return an object of that class.
As far as it's a reference type, you can always return a null.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but if it is a value type, you cannot do so.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I hope like it's clear, no? Yeah. Okay, coming to the Scala types, like like everything is not objects in Java. Like you have Scala types also. There are 8 primitive Scala types, like int, long, short, byte, and float, double, char, and boolean. So yeah, you can see like what is the memory size of this in the lecture slides, but I'm not going into more details. So how do you like, not unlike in Python, you should declare your variables before using them. So how you need to specify the type of the variable before you are using them. So this is the kind of declaration which we follow in Java. So int x comma y, so you can define in a number of variables if they are of type int. Similarly for float also, for any other primitive types, you can do this kind of declaration, and later you are assigning assigning values to those variables, x equal to 5, y equal to 10. Similarly in char, how do you assign some value? Like a char will take only the characters which are in single quotes. You should specify like whatever value you want to give to your char, you should enclose them in the single quote. And boolean, for a boolean variable you can assign only true or false, because boolean is taking only 2 values. Is it clear? So how do you initialize at the time of declaration? So you can simply say you can declare a variable like x or y or z, and you can assign some value to that while declaring itself. That is called initialization while declaring. So if something is constant throughout your program, like the value of pi should not be changed throughout your program, no? So how can you tell, like in C you have constant kind of thing, but in Java you will use final keyword. If you say something as final, then that is final. Then you cannot reassign value to that variable. Once you have if you mention something as final, you cannot reassign value to that variable. Okay, that's all about this scalar data types. And coming to the operators, the common operators which we arithmetic operators are plus, minus, what star, division, and what this, and modulo operation, plus addition, and this all whatever. This is common to every what language, no, Python or any other language, it's same. and no separate integer division operator. Like in Python, you will use like double slash, no, if you want to get integer division, but in Java it's not there. But if you tell like 10 divided by 5, then it will give 2 as output, because both 10 and 5 are integers. If you declare 10 and 5 as integers, then that will give the result in as integer only. Okay. And in Java also you have some exponential in Python you have exponential and operation, no, operator, no, that is not there in Java. You should use math.pow. And so math.pow of a comma n will return a power n, like, yeah. So this is how you should use this pow what func method. And special operators like incrementing and decrementing. So like, so a equal to a plus 1, instead of that you can write a plus plus. Instead of b equal to b minus 1, you can write b minus minus. And similarly, like this is some shortcut like for updating some variable. Instead of saying a equal to a plus 7, you can say a plus equal to 7. Okay, I think this it will be clear, like this all things which these things you have already learned in Python also, except this increment and this is already there in Python also, except these things. Yeah. Okay. So string is a built-in class in Java. It is an object. Okay, it is not scalar or primitive data type. It is an object in Java. It is a built-in class. So yeah, how do you declare initialize a class? Initialize a string. So you will say string as something, you will declare this as variable as is of type string, and then you are assigning some value to that. This value must be enclosed in double quotes if you are telling it as a string. So plus, if you use something like plus operator in string, then it does concatenation of the string. So you can give like string s equal to hello, string t equal to world, no? If you are saying string u equal to s plus space plus t, then it will give hello world as output, because you are concatenating two strings and there is space between them, so hello world. So you can give any number of what you can do n number of concatenations, like you can define multiple way, you can add multiple strings. That's why it is overloaded for string coordination. And strings are not arrays of character. That means you cannot say s of 0. If you say s of 0, if in array, if you say a of 0, then you will get first element of your array, no? This is not with strings. You cannot say s of 0 or something, because indexing is not possible for strings because it is not array of characters. Instead you should use s dot caret of 0. That means it will give h. So you can use substring method also. So this 0 is what starting index, so the beginning index, and 3. So you are telling 0 comma 3, no? So hello, if you take hello string, then your indexing will start from 0. H is 0, 1 e is 1, and L is 2, and second L is 3, no? So but this last thing is what not included. Only you will take 0 to 2 you will get. So you will get, if you say s dot substring of 0 comma 3, then you will get HEL only, not second L, because this is whatever you specify ending index minus 1, that will happen here in the substring function. So arrays are also objects. And how do you declare an array? You will say int. You can say, you can use this notation or this notation. You can use this. So you can so this is by using this notation we are telling that this a is an array of integers. You are specifying you are like you are what I can say, you are stressing that this is an array of integers. Yeah. So how do you initialize them? Array a equal to new int of 100. You are using this notation. Similarly, you can use this kind of notations for float or strings or anything. For object, array can also take objects. So you can have employee array also, like it can be of any type. Arrays can be of any type, any data type. So a dot length will give the size of array A. So a here length is an variable, but if you say s dot length of length is a method here in strings, but a dot this length is a variable in arrays, and array indexes will run from 0 to length. So yeah, if you have array, I'm here we have declared no, it is an array. It has 100 integers. A is an array of 100 integers, so it will indexing will start from 0, but the last element, but the last index of your array will be 99. So your indexes will go from 0 to 99. This is similar in Python also. Yeah, is it clear till now for all, or is there any doubt?
Clear, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So coming to the control flow is like, so conditional execution. So in the middle of your program, you want to check if something is correct, then you should execute some statement. If something is not correct, then you should execute other statement, that is if else block. So example which sir has used in the lecture is like, okay, if you want to check an integer as what, positive or negative, then how do you check? You will check whether its value is greater than 0 or less than 0. So similarly, you will check if x is greater than 0, you will say x is positive. If it is else, if it is less than 0, then you will say it is what, negative number. Okay, this is if you want to what, check for some condition in your program, then you can use if else and conditional loops. Like, so if you want to print 10 numbers, only 10 numbers, then how do you check? Like, you have initialized your variable to some number and you want to print that number to 10, like you want to increment that, so you will use the conditional loop. So you will check whether the number is less than 10. If it is less than 10, then you will print that and then you will increment. So if you want to print from 1 to 10, then how will you check? You will initialize that variable to 1, then you will check whether that number is less than 10. Okay, you will print that if it is less than 10, and then after printing you will increment that. So that's so something, if you want to if you want to perform the same thing, but if the thing is performed only after checking some condition, then you can use this conditional loop, while loop. So if what is it, the difference between do while and while loop is like, so in do while loops, first you are doing something and then you are checking for a condition. So do while loop will execute at least once in your whatever statements which are present inside the do, that will execute at least one. But in the while loop, the statements won't be executed until and unless that condition has become true. In do while loop, that is like not the thing. Like, first you will execute the statements, then you will check for the condition. Yeah, if that condition is false, then you are not going to execute the statements in the do again. Okay. So iteration, like for normally for iteration you will use for loop, two kinds of for. So you can say for int I equal to 0 to I less than 10 and I plus plus. So this is one kind of for, and that other fund is like for each loop, which is kind of similar to Python loop. So for x in L, that means you are iterating over the list and you are printing each and every element. If you want to print each and every element in your list, you will say for x in L, you will say print that system.out.println. So similarly in Java also there are two kinds of for. You can you can initialize a variable. So yeah, whatever the patterns which I have told earlier, no, these are the two kinds of fors. And multi-way branching. So if will provide only, you can check only single condition, no, by using if, but using switch case you can check for multiple conditions. So you will say case 1 equal to case 1, then you will say it is it is do something, case 2 do something, case 3. So you can do multiple, you can check multiple things in using switch. Okay, is it clear control flow thing, or is there any specific thing for anyone?
Clear, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, yeah. So I don't understand if you like if no one is responding, I will think like, yeah, I will think like people are understanding or people are not getting anything. So yeah, that's what. Okay, I think these things are already familiar to you. No, you have learned this kind of things in Python also. So coming to classes and object. So class is an a template for an encapsulated type. So that means you will so this is an example of a class. So here you have some variables, day, month and year. These are variables of type integer, and you have some method also here. So the class has, it is an encapsulated data type which has some what private implementation and public interfaces. So how do you, so if you want to call if this is a private, no, as these variables are private, you cannot directly change these variables outside, from outside of this class. Only within the class you can change them. So how do you, how you can change these variables? By using these methods. So get day, so set day, set month, set year. If you define those kind of methods, you can what you can change them, you can access them or something. Yeah, so it is like encapsulated, so it will separate your implementation. The implementation cannot be seen like this is what encapsulation means, and you can interact with that by using the methods, public methods. So an object is an instance of class. So class, you are just, it is a template, it is a template, but object is like you are giving values to that. So that is an object is an instance of the class. So these variables, day, month and year, are called instance variables, because these will differ from object to object. So these are called instance variables. Okay, so now you have created this class, date class. How do you initialize this? So how do you set these instance variables of your class? By using the constructors. So the function of the constructor is to initialize the instance variables of your class. So what are constructors? Constructors are special functions which are called when an object is created. So if you are, this is, so the constructors has the same name as your class name, and these are special methods which are called when an object is created. How do you create an object? By using the new keyword. So if you wanted to create the what, an object of date class, then you will say date d equal to new date of this. So you should specify d is of type date. You are so in generally in variables also you will say int x int y, no. Similarly you should say d is of type date, this is of data type of date data type. And then you are then you are calling the constructors new date new if you by using this new keyword, you are allocating the memory to that object. And date, by writing this date, you are just calling the constructors and you are initializing the values. So yeah, if I say date d equal to new date of, for this class, will it create an object for me?
Parameters needs to be passed.
Yeah, it won't create an object for you, because you have declared a constructor in your, you have defined a constructor in your class which is taking 3 arguments of type integers. So if you pass this only to you, if you say, if you write this statement, if you write this what, if you declare an object date d equal to new date of, and if you pass 3 integers, then only it will create a object for you. If not, it will say no matching constructor found, you cannot create object, because there is no, like you are calling the constructor of constructor something which is not there, so it won't create object for you. So yeah, similar to methods, you can define multiple constructors in your class. And yeah, constructor overloading is possible. Overloading means you can say public date equal to public date. You can define constructor with 2 arguments, with 1 argument, or with 0 arguments, or with 3 arguments in your class. So constructors can be overloaded. and a constructor can call you another constructor using this. So you are in this constructor if there is some other constructor in your class. So let's take there is a constructor with empty arguments. If you want to call that constructor, you should simply say this in your constructor, then it will call that constructor. So yeah, similarly, if you have other constructor with the two arguments d into d and into m, something like two argument constructor, if you say this of some, if you pass some variables also, because that constructor is taking two arguments, two integers as arguments, if you call this of 10 comma 20, then it will call that constructor. So you can call the constructors using this keyword. So if no constructor is defined in your class, so in many programs you will see, there won't be constructor kind of thing in your class, but still you are able to create the class, create the object of your class. This is because Java provides default constructor if no constructor is defined in your class. So yeah, but I previously also you have agreed, right? You cannot say date d equal to new date of something, because Java is providing default constructor. Why can't I say that? So Java provides only default constructor only if no constructor is defined in your class. If you are defining something, you have to use that constructor. Java won't give the default constructor. Okay. So these things I have already discussed. New creates a new object. How do we set the instance variables? So how do we initialize them? By using the constructors. There are special functions which are called when an object is created. These have the same name. These are special functions, the same name as class name. And constructor overloading. So you can have multiple number of constructors in your class which have same name but different signature. A constructor can call another constructor using this keyword. If no constructor is defined, Java provides a default constructor with empty arguments. So okay, these things I have already discussed. Okay, if you are calling an empty constructor, it will instantiate your int variables to 0, float variables to 0.0, something like that. It will initialize them to some default values. Okay, if some string or some object type is there in your as your instant variable, then it will set them to null. Okay, copy constructor. So how can you create a new object which has exactly so int d equal to I told date d equal to new date of 13 comma 18 comma 2015. So day is set to 13 and month will be set to 8 and year will be set to 2015. If you want if you want another object d1, those for that object also, if you want instance variables like in day, month and year to the same values, then you can you can declare a constructor in your class public date, and this constructor should take an object of type date d, and then you can just copy those values. So this is an copy constructor. That means this is a constructor which is taking an object of type d as argument, and you are setting. So this day specify your present object, that is d1 dot day equal to d dot day you are telling. So whatever value d dot day has will be assigned to d1 dot date day. Similarly d1 dot month, so whatever value equal to d dot month, whatever value this d object month is having, the same value will be assigned to d1. Similarly for year also. So this is how you can instantiate you can create a new object from an existing one. So but you should be careful. If you pass arrays, then you are passing them, you are if you are just assigning them. So if there is array here, so if there is like, if year is an array, then if you say this dot year equal to day dot year, like if you are assigning both of them with the same thing, both arrays with the same thing, then what if the values of this array d1 array gets changed, then the values of d array is also gets changed. So you should be careful while passing the object types. So yeah, you can avoid this by doing explicit thing, but these things will be discussed knowledge in the next coming weeks. So that's all regarding the constructors and creation of object. Is it clear for everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So how to take input, now you have seen how to print something to your screen in the Java by saying system.out.println. There are different variations for this, not variations, like you can call print method also system.out.print. Some formatting also you can do by using printf method. But how to take input in Java, there is console class. By using console class and by using scanner class, you can take, but the scanner class is more general, and this is mostly used in our lectures also. So I'm telling only about the scanner class. So you will just declare some variables of type scanner, and you will create object of the variable object of the scan class by saying new scanner of system.in. And then you can just, if you want string, if you want to take string as input, then you can say this is the variable, this is the reference variable of this object. So in dot next line or next, in dot next, it will, you can take the string as input. So if you say what is the difference between next line and the next, so if you say Ramu, then you can use both this next line or next, but the delimiter for next is space, and the delimiter for line is enter. So yeah, whenever it encounters space, I'm talking about next. Whenever it encounters next, then it will stop taking input. In the next line case, whenever it will encounter enter thing, then it will stop taking input. So you can give sentence only a sentence using, that means enter. Until and this you press enter, you can give you can take input by using next line. By if you want to take only words, then you can take next. The delimiter is what space and space for next, and enter for next line. So how can you take input for of integers? So you can say in dot next int. For double also in dot next double. For float also in dot next float. So that's how you take input for floats, integers and strings. Yeah, that's all for this. So I have not explained in detail because you are not going to you have not used this till week 4. You will see in the later weeks whether you will use or not. Yeah, so I just described this kind of class. Okay, any doubts still here in week 2?
No, ma'am.
String name, I mean the enter is the taking it to next line. So either it can take a word or it can take entire sentence also.
Yeah, so next line, if you say next line, if you are taking name equal to next line, I am telling no. So whatever sentence if you give, so until and unless you press enter, it will take. Okay, I will write that. So your input is something like this. If you say name equal to in dot next line, no?
Yes, until unless there is one enter, it will keep taking in the
yes. Okay, if you enter like this is Java is a good programming language, something like the good programming language. So it will take only this is Java, because you are typing new line here. No, it won't take this is Java is good programming language. That won't take. It won't take. So whenever it sees enter, it will just stop taking input and it will assign that whatever value it has taken to
so
name.
that is
Okay.
for next line. What is
next
if it's
line.
only next?
Okay, what if it's next? So I will take the same input. This is Java. So there is space between this and is. So whenever it sees space, it will stop here and it will just assign name this to name. So space is delimited. Like after encoding space, it will stop taking input and it will just assign that whatever value which has taken to the value, it will assign that thing. Here, after seeing enter, it will stop taking. After seeing space, it will stop taking. So is it clear?
No, but in both the cases, you have to press enter, correct?
And no, see, you have to press
No,
enter. That is
suppose
your
it is string name equal to in dot next and presses. And instead of typing one particular word, I am typing a sentence that is meaningless because the
Yeah,
moment
Bimalesh, the enter we press to give back the control to the program. It gives the control to you, right? To the input device that you enter something. Then if you want to return the control back to the program once again, you press a enter. So this is whenever you're writing, then you press a enter. Yes. Then control goes to your program, but it reads only this in case of next.
Yes, sir. Correct. Thank you.
Ma'am, I had a doubt.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, ma'am. If you told us about the copying constructors, you said
Yeah,
ki
okay.
if we have a constructor that we have copied from the other one, like let's say object one and object two, and so if we change the object two and we are passing object one as the value to it, so will the object one also be changed?
So okay, you are telling like, okay, this is the similar copy constructor thing, no? So here it has only primitive types, so it won't change. If you are passing something as object, that means if you pass integers, strings, or some object, employees or something to your to your constructor as argument, if you are directly assigning them, so let's take like, okay, if there is some array, okay, I will define some class array thing only. Array sum, if there is something like array sum, here you are array sum, so it is taking something like some array, integer array as argument. This is constructor only because you have class array sum and you are giving an int a, that is taking array as argument. So you are in from main, so from main you are calling that you are creating object array sum a equal to new array sum of some integer you are giving. Okay, let's take array int array t. You have defined some array t equal to something 1 2 3 some values, and you are passing it to your array, to your what constructor. So you are passing this t, that means array, this is type of type integer array only, no? T is integer array. So now you are passing that. So what happens here is like, now you are setting this dot array, there is some variable array in your your class instance variable. Now you are assigning that to a. That means, so now if you are changing it in your constructor, if you say like, so if you say something like a of 0 equal to 2, then what happens here is like, here in your array t also, whatever array which you have passed will also get changed. Here its value will become 2 comma 2 comma 3, because it is happening by reference, call by reference. You have learned, no? That is happening by reference because what you are doing here is like, so okay, let me erase this. Okay,
So the original object, the original class will also have different values if you change it in the duplicate class.
Yeah, if you change in the duplicate, original class also will change because you are calling by reference. That means what you are doing here is like a comma t, what they are pointing to the same memory here in the case. So whenever you change a or t, it will be reflected in both the things. Okay. So yeah, but what like for int and int and other types, primitive data types, what happens here is, if you say int a equal to t, now a is in different memory and T is also different memory. So even if you change A, it won't affect T. But for this object type things, so you are just referring, you are passing the same reference, but you are telling A and T are pointing the same memory kind of thing. So whenever you change A, the values in the T also will be changed. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am. I got that. What can we do to, if is there a possibility of not changing the original one?
Yeah,
How can we do that?
you should do deep copy of that. That means you should say, you should what said, you are passing array, no, instead of saying simply like A equal to T, you should say A of 0 equal to T of 0, A of 1 equal to T of 1. That means if you say A equal to T, that means you are just passing reference. So whatever so now T is pointing to some memory location, no, you are telling this A also is pointing to some that same memory location. But if you do this, you are changing that you are not doing that memory, you are not telling both are pointing to same memory location, you're just assigning values to that memory, to that what A. So you are telling A of 0 equal to T of 0, so whatever value which is there in T of 0 will be assigned to A of 0. That is, you are not giving memory directly, you are just assigning values to this. You are assigning values here you are passing reference, you are giving that memory location to A.
Got it, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I hope like it's clear. So yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, Arup sir will continue week 3.
Yeah. Thank you, Nalini. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, first let me share my screen. Can you see this?
Yes, sir. So
okay. So good evening all. So we'll go for the third week, right? So third week basically focus on different things related to the inheritance or class hierarchy, right? So first we start with the difference between structured programming and sorry, this thing is not working. Just give me a minute. Sorry, my main tab is not working somehow. So, okay, we can arrange with the mouse. Okay. So first, like we want to see the difference between a structured programming and object-oriented programming. Since structured programming, we think about the algorithm first. So we try to make a solution, right? The solution will be prepared in terms of number of procedures, right? So those procedures will be combined together to create a complete solution. And once the algorithm is fixed up, like the solution is prepared, then we think about what will be our data structure so that we can fit our data into it, right? So first the algorithm comes or the procedures comes, then we decide what are the data and all. So here the most of the focus goes for the designing the algorithm, not the data. Whereas object-oriented takes a different type of approach. So where we basically focus on data, which is the main focus, right? So we first find out which kind of data we need to maintain and manipulate. Then we create the procedures or functionality which will works on those particular data. So those are the idea. So why the object-oriented could work in a better way than a procedure-oriented program? It could be find out if I have thousands of data. If I have a have some n number of data which are global data, and if you have some 1,000 number of methods which are working on it. So managing the data will be much more difficult in the sense, and functions also much more difficult. But if you think about, you are having like 10 different units, and each unit having 100 of function, or you are having 100 units each having 10 functions. So in that way, they are working on their own data. So that's much easier, because once you're having a corruption in a data, you know exactly which unit is responsible for making the particular corruption. And if you have limited number of methods inside it, you can easily identify which method is responsible for the particular corruption. But in the case of procedure oriented programming, all the thousands of methods having the functions are having the way to access your data. So you are not sure like which function has done the corruption, right? So the debugging, managing everything, it gets difficult in case of a structured programming, right? So all global data could be accessed by any function. But in object oriented, I know a particular data could be accessed by 1, 2, 3 in number of function, not more than that. So if I have a problem with the data, these functions are only responsible, or one of these functions will be responsible. So identifying the error, managing it, everything becomes much easier. Now object basically have two parts, a behavior and states. The state is basically the defined by the instance variables, and the behaviors are defined by the operations, the methods, right? So what the encapsulation says, so normally the state which basically represent the internal state of an object, that's basically the instance variable that must be private inside the class, that must be private inside the class, whereas the methods defines an interface to access them, manipulate them from the outside. But you need to make sure only the methods associated with the instance variable or with the particular class can access on the instance variable, not other methods, right? So that is basically called the encapsulation, right? If you have to change the methods, only the corresponding methods which are belongs to the same object or the class can change the state, not by other global function or any other functions. It is the same function belongs to the same class to which the particular state belongs to, right? The particular state of object belongs to, that can having only the way to access to the particular instance variable, not any other functions. Now, there are few terms which are important regarding object orientation: dependencies, right? Then aggregation and inheritance. So dependence means one object depends on another object. It's basically relation between two classes or objects. Like if you want to create an order, you must be depending on an account object. You should know the account details so that you can create an order. So somehow your order must be dependent on the account. Now, dependency, good or bad? Some amount of dependency has to be there, because ultimately your objects has to be interact, right? But if you have more dependency between two class or two object, what will happen? If you make any changes on the account, that enforce you make change on the order also, right? So if you make change in a function inside the account, that may enforce to have some changes inside the order class also, which is not desirable, right? So dependency between the two classes is expressed with a term, it's called as a coupling. So that's measure the dependency between two classes. It is always desirable you should have a low coupling between two classes, low dependency, right? So if it's having a low dependency means they could be changed. They could be changed or modified independently of each other. So if I change the account class, that doesn't affect the code of or implementation of the order class. The reverse also should be true. Aggregation, your particular object consists of some other objects, right? So our order can be consisting of number of item types, right? So item objects. And inheritance is basically creating a subtype. So it's basically you're already having a code, you're having already a class which you have defined before. So you have to create a new class. Why to write it from the scratch? Why not reuse the existing implementation what we have inside the previously defined code? So what I'll do, I'll inherit the code, right? Whatever the things are there inside my class, which I have defined before, that automatically will get into my class. So that's what here we are having a example express order and a order. So express order is a special kind of order which supposed to have all the features of the order along with some other kind of facilities, like there could be very priority kind of handling, there could be a fast delivery, there must be some extra shipping charges. But express order is also a order. So it basically looks for a clause called a is a clause, right? So express order is a order, but the reverse is not true. All the orders are not express order, right? So up to this, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, the code is little small, but I have to keep it because otherwise what I'll say doesn't make much sense. So maybe you have to see it a bit carefully. Okay. So a subclass can extend a parent class. So exactly we are having the same keyword over here, extend, for doing an inheritance.
Do you want to increase it just one size? Just one plus maybe two? Okay,
it's fine, right? It's fine.
It's fine, but I think you will have to scroll up and down.
No, it's fine now.
Okay.
But it is visible right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's basically we use the particular keywords extends, which says a subclass will extend a parent class or a class, right? So as I told, so it's basically kind of a easy kind of thing, right? So we need to say a manager is an employee, a manager is an employee, but all the employees are not a manager. So a manager is supposed to have all the features of an employee. Additionally, it can have some additional features. So we are having the data members over here, the instance variable, but as they are private over here, we cannot, the manager doesn't have the visibility to it. Like they cannot directly access this, but there are public functions which can be, which enable the manager to set this data or get this particular data, right? And additionally, a manager can have a secretary and having the particular mutator and accessor method to set the value or get the value. So what the manager will have, what our employee is having, additionally it can have something extra. So what are the points to be noted? Subclass inherits the instance variable as well as the methods from the parent class. It can add some more instance variable and methods. Along with that, some methods could be also override, right? We can override some methods. So I'll come to that afterwards. Subclass cannot see the private components. So private components also comes to the child class, but they are not accessible or visible to the child class, right? So you need to use the accessors and mutator to access them. Now, if you want to access, so as these things are not visible to the child class, how this could be initialized? For that, somehow we need to call the constructor of the employee class, the parent class. So how you can call the constructor of the parent class? Through the keyword called as a super. So remember, this is a keyword. This is a keyword which refers to the current object. Super is a keyword which refers to the parent object. This is a keyword which refers to the current object. Super is a keyword which refers to the parent object. So if you say the super, means you're referring to the parent. Manager objects inherits other fields or methods of the employee. Every manager has a name. So these are the same thing. So any question from this? Any question?
So what happens if you don't mention super or this either one? Which one does it take as default?
If you don't?
If you don't specify super or this.
For referring a data member, it depends on the type of the object with which you are referring it. So local to that. So if you're calling it using the child object, it should be belongs to the child. If you're referring it to the parent object, it should be the parent. So it's called the local one, local to the object.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, please.
So in parent class, if I'm having two constructors, one is no argument, and second is a parameterized constructor. And in child class, if I'm not able to access that directly and I want to use the super, So if I want to use no argument, I will be using only super keyword. And if
no. If you have a no argument, it has to be called. You don't have to use the super. That is called implicitly goes, because as you have learned, whenever you are having a hierarchy of classes, child, parent, grandparent, etc., always the constructor will be called in a top to bottom order, right? So if you do not make a explicitly super call, by default, the default constructor or no parameter constructor will be invoked. So it goes for the grandparent, then parent, then the child. But somewhere you override it. Like, I don't want the default constructor. I want to call the parameterized. Then you have to make the call using the super.
But that time when I will be writing super in bracket, I will be using the same argument that I use for the parameterized constructor.
Yeah. In the parent.
Yes. Okay. In the parent. No. In calling, while calling super call.
Yeah. So you need to pass it to the parent, no? So as per the parent parameters, you need to pass it. Yeah.
No, sir. If I'm overriding it in
overriding constructor, you cannot override, right?
No. In means the constructor I want to use, the parent constructor I want to use.
Yeah.
So I'm using a super keyword, correct? And if it is a parameterized constructor, then within that super constructor, I will pass the same parameter so that it will identify that I'm referring to the parameterized constructor.
Yeah. Just I'll clarify this. So there are concept of a formal parameter and actual parameter, right? Formal parameters where you receive it, and actual parameter are which you send, right? So actual parameter, sorry, the formal parameter will be as per the parent constructor. So parent will specify, I'll take this. But whenever you're passing, these are the variables which are defined inside the child, right? Child values will be passed into the parent. Yeah. So the call will be from child to parent, but execution will be from parent to child.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
So constructors cannot be rewritten in the child class?
Constructor name is same as the class name, right?
Okay, so even let's say I have a child class and I want to, which has say one extra parameter, private key, let's say. So there, when I'm writing the constructor,
are you
that is only
talking
for
about
this call.
overriding or overloading? What you're asking?
Overloading.
Overloading is possible. I'm
It's
not
possible.
talking about the overloading. I'm talking about the overriding.
So can we say that constructors are static?
Yeah, constructors are practically static inside the implementation.
Okay.
But in Java, like what we see in the Java, we cannot explicitly say it's a static, but through the implementation, it is a static. Yeah. Because we are calling it without creating the object.
Class. Yeah.
No, the main reason is we are calling the constructor without creating the object, right?
Yes.
Before creating the object, we can invoke the constructor, right? We call the constructor, then create the object. That's the point.
Instantiate the
yeah. Okay. So now we come to the override.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. So just to clarify, now if I don't explicitly call super in the child class constructor, it will automatically call the no params constructor of the parent class.
Yes.
So the no params constructor, it could either be the default constructor, or the user could have defined a constructor but without any parameters, but it would have a body.
Yeah.
Okay. Sir,
here you are having a catch. Please remember this. If you have any other type of constructor, otherwise no parameter constructor in the parent, then it will show the error. So if you're giving any other kind of constructor in like a parameterized constructor in the parent, then you should explicitly have a default constructor inside it.
Okay, got it, sir.
Free constructor, which is given automatically by the compiler, will not be available in the parent once you write any other constructor. It will be available only once, only in a situation whenever you do not create explicitly any constructor. Got it?
Yes, sir. Got it, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So now see, inside the employee, we are having a bonus, which is implemented over here. And suppose we also define the bonus inside the manager. So this is the definition of bonus inside the manager. Right. So in your program right now, we are having two versions of bonus. The signature is absolutely same. The signature is absolutely same. But the version depends on for which object we are calling it. If we call it with a employee object, it must goes for the employee version. If we call on behalf of the child object, then it goes for the bonus of manager class. Does it make sense? But the signature has to be exactly same. Is it okay?
And if it is
Yes, sir.
employee equal to new manager M, then it will go to manager class.
This one.
No,
Yes, sir,
not
yes, sir.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, something else has to be done, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to that. Yeah, that is objective, like how I can reach to this. Yeah. Now the first point is, as per the rule of the dynamic dispatcher, like a reference can refer to its own object or child object. So how you get this rule? It's basically from the subtyping, because a child supposed to have all the feature of the parent. So instead of using a parent type, I can use a child type, because child know everything about the parent, right? So that's the way. So E is supposed to represent a parent type, but instead I'm giving a child type, because child also represent the parent. But reverse is not true, right? A manager cannot represent an employee, but employee can represent a, sorry, I'm telling wrong. A manager can represent an employee, right? A manager can employ a employee, but an employee may not be representing a manager, right? Because an employee may not have all the features of a manager, right? So that's why if I have E, the employee type on the left side, it can refers to a manager, because here instead of having an employee type, we're using a manager type, which is allowed because manager is supposed to have all the feature of the employee. But reverse is not allowed. If you have a manager over here, if you write a M, and if you want to have a new E, like employee, this is not possible. Why it is not possible? Because a manager may not be representing an employee, because employee doesn't supposed to have all everything of a manager, right? So that's why a method dispatcher allow a reference to refer to a its own object or a child object, not to the parent object, right? Does it make sense to this? Hello.
No, suppose this override we are talking about bonus itself.
Now,
Suppose.
for the timing, just forget about the override. Do you understand the reference and object concept?
Yes.
That employee reference can refer to a manager object, because a manager having all the capability of employee. But a
Sir, understood, sir.
manager type of reference cannot refer to a employee object, because employee object may not have all the capabilities of a manager. That's the thing,
Yes.
right? Now, the question is, what are the function I can invoke? If I have to solve it, I need to check the static type of E, right? And if I have the capability to invoke a method, which version of the method I'll call, that depends on the runtime or dynamic type of the E. Again, I repeat, can I call a particular method or not? It depends on the static type of E. If I can call it, then which version of that method will be called? That depends on the dynamic type of E, right? So can we invoke this? It depends on the static type of E. So what is the static type of E? It is employee. So you need to look for employee. Does the employee have this capability? Does the employee having this capability?
No, so it will compile error.
So it will be a compiler error, right? Because set secretary is a special capability which is there in the manager. So the decision we take, can I call a method? That could be answered by the static type of the reference, right? But if I can call the object, which version will be called? It's a child version or parent version. That is depends on the dynamic type. So is it clear? Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So which methods are available depends on the static type.
Your
What happens when
capability, yeah, your capability, what I can call, that depends on the static type. But if I have the capability, which implementation I'll call, that depends on the dynamic type.
If there is no overriding, there is no confusion. Otherwise, it
Yeah.
has to go for dynamic dispatch.
Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Suppose, sorry, please go.
Yeah, please.
Sir, can you kindly clarify once again the difference between dynamic dispatch and dynamic lookup, as Dhanya ma'am was explaining in the first?
No, I didn't told about. I haven't gone to it. I never told about
All right,
dynamic dispatch yet. I yet to arrive of that, right? So I'm just
Okay, sir,
telling
okay.
the difference between the dynamic type and the static type and what it do, why it is required. So static type decide, do I have the capability or not? Dynamic type decides if I have the capability, which kind of implementation I'll have. Okay.
Yes, I got it.
Sir?
Yeah.
So then dynamic type means we are referring to the method.
No.
Static type means
Dynamic type means
then
what is the static type of B? Compile can see it is type of employee, right?
employee. Okay.
But runtime where
So
it
we
is
also call
actually
it as a
pointing.
reference type, no? We also call it reference type.
Class means a reference type, right? If you have a class means a reference, right? But in the runtime, E is pointing to which object?
To manager child.
So what should be the runtime type or the dynamic type?
Got it, sir. Understood.
Right. So in
Sir, one more thing.
Yeah, just 1 minute. Just
when
in
you
the
say the signature should be same. Sorry.
Yeah, please go.
Continue.
Yeah, I mean to
Sorry,
say
overriding you said that. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, signature has to be
continue.
exactly same. Signature means
So signature does
the
it
return
mean
type.
the order of the parameter should be same?
The return type, this name and the order type, everything must be same. Exact same.
Exact same. Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. So if it is a static binding, right? If it is a static binding, like if I want to
just to interrupt, sir, in overloading, if the data types are same, but the variables are interchanged, then it
variable
is not
does not
over.
matter.
Yeah, so then it is not overloading.
Variable is not part of the signature. The types are the signature part of the signature.
Yes, so double A and double B, and in the second one it's double B double A, so it is not
No, does not matter. The variables are not part of the signature at all. You can use ABCD, XYZ, anything you can use, that's not matter. So as per the static binding of E, if you find out which has to be called, it's the employee version of the bonus, and dynamic type, it must call the manager version of the bonus because it is pointing on the runtime to the manager object. Now here the role of the dynamic dispatch comes. Now what is dynamic method lookup? Dynamic method lookup is a generic technique in object orientation which decides which version of the implementation should be invoked whenever I am having multiple implementation for a interface, implementation for an interface, right? So it's a generic theoretical definition. Again, I repeat, for an interface, if you have a multiple implementation, so on the runtime, which implementation I need to call. But whenever I'm speaking about the interface, I'm not calling about the abstract class and interface. Interface means this mutator and accessor kinds of methods, which lets you access your instance variable, right? Which lets you access the instance variable. So the capability of an object, tell ke, these are the signature, these are the things you can do, set name, get name, whatever the things. But you are not aware of how the implementation done inside the class, right? So the implementation in the parent class could be done in a way, in the child class can have done the same thing in a different way, right? So the set name also can have two different versions of the implementation, right? So dynamic lookup and the runtime decides which method has to be called, and the lookup system has implemented in Java and few other programs also through the technique called as a dynamic dispatch or dynamic method dispatch. Right. So which is responsible for this dynamic binding, deciding the fact which I'll bind to, which one I'll call actually. So that is delayed till the execution. In compile time, we do not make any decision, okay, which method I need to call actually. We wait, we find out actually where it is pointing to and then make the decision. So that's basically the dynamic method dispatch or dynamic dispatch 2. So dynamic method dispatch actually used to implement something called the polymorphism, which is basically a polymorphism over here. So it's a classical example of a polymorphism. So where you're having a E, right, which is a manager. You are having this will be M. Yeah, we are having a manager M, right, which is pointing to the manager. And we can have a generic employee type, not generic, sorry, I'm telling generic every time, but it's not a generic. We can have an array which is parent type, which is a parent type. So that's why the 0 index can refer to the object of E and this can refer to the object of M. So you need to understand that EMP array of 0 is basically holding a reference to a employee object, and employee array of 1 is having a reference to object manager, right? So that dynamic type, sorry, static type is same for both the things. It is employee, but that dynamic type is different. For 0th, it is the employee. For 1, it is the M, right? So now, whenever it comes to the loop, whenever it's a 0, it refers to the parent version. Whenever it is 1, it refers to the child version, because internally the implementation you're asking for 0, you are asking for the implementation from the parent. Whenever it's a 1, you are asking for the implementation from the child. Is it okay now? Is it okay?
Yes, defined, right?
Yeah.
We can change the definition right now, or it's fixed.
Which definition?
Whatever you are saying. This EMP array 0 is pointing to employee and 1 is pointing to manager.
No, you can make it to any parent
Make
type.
it, huh?
Or,
Okay.
yeah, sorry, its own type or parent. Sorry, I'm telling not a parent type. It's a child type.
So here it depends upon definition.
How you are declaring the thing, but the point is, it should points to its own type or a child type. It should not be to a parent type. That is the only.
Yes, sir.
No, even if we wrongly switch it, then it will give the erroneous result, but it will be taking the bonus accordingly. Suppose EMP array, we intend
this
to
is the
make it
bonus
E.
is the capability available in the parent child both. So as far as the static concern, it's fine, right? Bonus is the capability available in the parent child both, right? So compile time, this is not an issue, never an error. But dynamic type,
Compile time will just see whether bonus is there or not.
Yeah, bonus is there in the static type or not. So static type for both are employee types and employee having a bonus, done. But the problem may occur here, right? So here E dot set secretary. So E, which is our employee type, the static type of E is employee, but employee doesn't have the capability set secretary. So it's a compiler error. Right? Right?
Yes, sir.
So please repeat this.
See, the static type of E is employee, right?
Yeah.
So what I told, if you call the set secretary, compiler checks, do you have the capability or not? Does the employee class having the set secretary capability, that function methods?
No.
So it will give a compiler error, right? So a method can be called or not, depends on its static type. So it's fine, the method cannot be called. But here the question is, the bonus is there on the employee, right? So it can be called. But now which version has to be called? It depends on the dynamic type.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever it's 0, it finds out the type is now employee. So call it from employee. Whenever it's a 1, it finds the type is manager. So call it from manager.
Yes.
Okay. So what the signature means, it's name and list of arguments, right? So in overloading, you can have multiple methods, signature different, but the name has to be same, right? The name has to be set, but with different signature, means the argument list can be different, like it can have different types, different number of parameters, etc. So in case of overriding, you should have the same signature. But overriding happens between the parent and child. And dynamic dispatch, it basically makes a runtime decision, which is a runtime choice, which version I have to call for. Which version I have to call for. So look for this. These are basically a overloading, because this is of type of double array, this is of integer array, right? So this is kind of a overloading. Okay, so what is important of type casting in case of this, right?
Yes, sir.
So yeah.
Excuse me, sir. So can you explain the difference between dynamic lookup and dynamic dispatch once again, sir? I couldn't understand.
See, dynamic lookup is a generic capability of an object-oriented program that in the runtime, it is free to decide which version of the implementation has to be called if a particular interface have multiple implementation, right? So particular method having different implementation on the different classes, right? So if you call the particular method, it will be which implementation will be given to you, that decided by the dynamic lookup. It find out which has to be given to you.
Okay, sir.
So it's a generic theoretical concept which is implemented in Java using a technique called as a dynamic method dispatch or dynamic dispatch. On the runtime, it gives you the override version. The not override version, like the parent version or the child version, rather I should say.
Okay, sir. So with respect to Java, dynamic lookup is basically dynamic dispatch.
Implemented through a dynamic dispatch.
Dispatch.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a
Okay,
technology sir. Which implemented.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Now, previously we have seen this is not possible, right? Because E doesn't have this capability. But what about this?
So due to typecasting, it gets that capacity.
Yeah. So compiler do cast the E to a manager type. Now E is a manager type. So what is the static type of E? Due to casting, because it is on the parenthesis also, you can see. Due to the casting, now the data type of the static type of E becomes a manager, and manager has the capability to invoke or the call set secretary, right? So now it makes possible, but only the error may occur if here we don't have a manager, we are having an employee. Now question is, can you do the casting? If this casting is allowed at all. You cannot do, right? Because the runtime and static type both are the employee type, right? So you cannot do. So what the safer code will be before writing this line, you just can check it what the dynamic type of E. So you can find out if the E is an instance of a manager. So it say yes. In that case, you can do a typecasting and call this.
So if actually we are inside that if condition, why is the typecasting necessary? Because if E is instance of manager, then E dot secretary will always be available.
No. See, the static type of employee is still, E is still employee, right? So if you just say E dot, if you don't do the casting, if you just say E dot manager, it will look for the static type of it. It finds employee.
Okay, got it.
So there's a problem will happen.
The compiler will say that set secretary is not there.
Yeah, not there. So that's why the casting is required. But casting means indirectly or directly, it has to be an instance of a manager, right? So it's not on the static type, but runtime it's actually the manager type, right? So that's holds good over here.
Okay, this is why in interpreted case, this is not required.
Okay, so here I don't have much code and all. So next we are having few things like which are generally needed for the programming. That is, Java do not have this multiple inheritance, means Java can inherit, Java classes can inherit only one parent class, right? So at the top of the Java class hierarchy, there is an object. There is a class which calls an object class. So all the class you define inside Java, they are all somehow inheriting the class called as an object class. So there are few methods inside the object class which you can override to get certain facilities. So we have discussed this, like Sarah has discussed this, the equals, which checks the equality between two object and two string, right? So the equality basically gives, implement this, you can compare between any two objects, right? And this toString is very important because whenever you're passing any object directly into println, the object has to be first converted into a toString, right? So implicitly it calls a o.toString. So any object you're passing for printing into println, that must, the toString has to be defined for it. So overriding toString and equals, I'll suggest you can just refer the slides a bit because this required a lot of coding and also which I'm avoiding. Now this is the important thing again, this subtyping and inheritance. Many people are asking many things about it. So it's very clearly explained over here. In class hierarchy provide both the facilities. So subtyping and inheritance, the last line is also important. Using one idea, the hierarchy of the classes in Java, we can implement both the concept, that subtyping and inheritance. So how this happens? So subtyping talks about the compatibility of interface or in terms of the capabilities, right? So what are the capability of a class? So whenever we say B is a subtype of A, that means B having more capability than A. B having more capability on compared to A, but it's not only more. Want to say B will have all the capabilities of A and something extra. B will have all the capability of A and something extra, right? So if B having all the capability of A, so whenever you need an object of A, I can also use an object of B. That is what we talk about, right? So whenever we have a employee is inherited by a manager, so manager has to have more capability than a employee, right? A manager has to have more capability than the employee. So instead of an employee object, you can always use a manager object. That is why this is allowed. But the reverse is not allowed. An employee having lesser capability than a manager. So instead of manager object, you cannot use an employee object. So some capability will be missing in that time. Does it make sense?
Yes.
And whenever you're thinking in a way, we are getting the codes, which are implementations, which are given into the parent into my class, which I'm inheriting into, we talk about the inheritance. Whenever you thought about what capability we get from the parent and we are having more capability, we talk about the subtyping. But whenever we talk about whatever the implementation we are having inside the parent class, we want to reuse it in the child class, we talk about the inheritance. So super is an example, like you want to call a method inside your child from the parent. So you use a super, you can invoke the constructor from the parent. So these are all reusability, what you have already written in the parent, right? So that's basically calls for the super. These are very simple thing we talk about many times. So up to this we learned about two things, like for data hiding, that's basically private and public. Private means everything hidden inside the same class, right? So the data members, that instance variable of object could be accessed by its own methods, right? And public is means which are exposed to the outsider. So those are basically for defining the interfaces, right? So if we create the instance variable, So those has to be private, right? And we give some accessors and mutator functions to access them and mutate them, like change them. So those has to be public methods. Those has to be public methods, right? But a method could be also public, which is internally used inside the class. Like if you think about a stack is having push and pop method, which has to be called from outside, but maybe having some overflow underflow condition that checks for if the stack is empty or checks for if you have the stack full, that may be private, kept into the particular stack class. There are modifiers like static and final, right? So final gives you different kind of capability. Final used for an instance variable, it denotes it's a constant. Final method cannot be overridden, whereas final class cannot be inherited, right? Now the things, you cannot use private and public for the same thing at the same time. So either public or private, but they could be used together. So you can have a public static final or a private static final, or you can have a public static public final or a private static private final. So this kind of thing. So I think I have done. So anything from your side?
So I have one doubt.
Yeah, please go on.
So while overriding, suppose I'm overriding a method from a parent to a child, and I declare it as a static, both of them. So in that
Static.
case, static. Both are static.
No, see,
So,
whenever you talk about overriding, just talk about the instance method, non-static methods. Let us not discuss about the static method, because a static is not a capability of an object. We are talking about the capability, right? It's not an object capability. It's basically associated with the class. So it's better not to discuss the static thing with respect to the overriding, because it is largely binded with the object, not to the classes.
So static is mostly public only?
No, it could be private also, right? So if you have a static, private static, a counter kind of thing, which internally keeps count of how many objects are created, like this. So some auditing purpose or some kind of thing. Yeah, please go on.
So I tried doing that, and what I seen that the child static method is able to override the public static. The parent static method.
See, the point is, can you call your static method with the object? It has to be invoked with the class, no?
Yeah.
So where this concept comes, the static type, then the dynamic type, does this concept associated with this? Until and unless we call it on behalf of an object like obj dot a thing call, then how the concept is coming? So it's straightforward. You say parent dot method name, child dot method name. So there is no confusion at all, right? Calling a static. If you call a child dot method name, it will call the child version. If you say parent dot method name, it's a method version.
It will look into the class itself. So
yeah, does it have the
classes,
dynamic dispatcher? Does it have any role, do you think? It don't have to check where it is pointing to or nothing, right? It just check the class name and find out what the method is.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Yeah, we can move to the next. Anand, do you want to?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Sir, I'm not able to share the screen.
1 minute. Can you check now?
Okay. Yes, sir. Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Now I would like to discuss the topics related to week 4. So in week 4, we have 6 lectures, right? So now I'm going to discuss about lecture 1. So in lecture 1, we have abstract classes. Okay. So before going to discuss about abstract classes, okay. So first, okay, we need to know about collecting the classes together. Okay. When to collect the classes together. Okay. So here, okay, I took a real-time use case. Okay. So I am a user. I want to order the food. Okay, I want to order the food. Okay, so if you want to order the food, okay, we have some food ordering apps, right? So here, this is Swiggy and Zomato and Uber Eats. So these are the three classes I have. Okay, so now user can use any one of these class to order the food. Okay, so Swiggy, Zomato, and Uber Eats. So these are the three classes we have to order the food. Okay, user can use any one of these class to order the food. Okay, now these three are different classes, but all are used to order the food only. So in this case, okay, so we can collect all these class together under a common heading. Okay, common heading. Okay, so how these classes are going to collect together under a common heading. Okay, so here I'm going to create all these are food ordering classes. No, so now I'm going to create one base class for all these classes. Okay, so that is the food order. Okay, so food order is the base class. Now I'm forcing every class to extend this food order class. Okay, so for example, there is no food order class. Okay, for example, there is no food order class. What happened if we not use this food order class, okay, as a parent class for all these classes? Okay, these three are three independent classes. Okay, now user can use any one of these to order the food. Okay, see here, for example, these three are not collected together under a common heading. Okay, for example, what happened? Okay, see here. So here we have three independent classes like Swiggy, okay, Zomato, okay, Food Panda. Okay, so like this I have three classes. Okay, now here person or user, okay, can order the food. Okay, order the food. Okay, he can use any one of these class to order the food. Okay, so here person has the one method, that is food order. Okay, food order. Now here, see here, he is going to call the food order. Okay, so here he used Zomato class. Okay, Zomato class to order the food from Zomato class. Okay, for suppose he want to order, okay, he want to order food from Swiggy. So now we should change here with the Swiggy, control space bar. So here Swiggy. Now Swiggy order. Okay, so all these are what? Independent classes. Okay, so there is no relationship between these three classes, but all are used to order the food. Okay, so here we should change the object here also. Okay, because I want to order the food from Swiggy now. Okay, Swiggy now. So now here the user, user should change every time here the parameter, as well here the order method, as well the instance. Okay, this is also should change. Okay, in order to order the food from different classes. Okay, so now what I am doing is, okay, now I am collecting all these two classes together, okay, by using one base class, that is the food order class. Okay, food order class. Here I am forcing every class, okay, every class should extend this food order class. Okay, and here it has one method. Okay, so every class, okay, here Swiggy has Swiggy order method, Zomato has Zomato order method, and Food Panda class has Food Panda order class. Okay, here food order, okay, is a base class. Okay, is a base class, has order method. Okay, order method. Okay, but here you given some default implementation. Okay, default implementation. Now this default implementation, okay, this default implementation, okay, not used by any one of these classes, and this order method not implemented or overridden in any other subclasses. Now here we should force every class, okay, every subclass of this food order, okay, to implement the order method, okay, to implement the order method. So if you don't force, okay, if you don't force every class to override the order method, what happened? Okay, see what happened. See here, okay, in food order method, okay, in food order method, instead of, okay, instead of taking food panda, Zomato, and Swiggy, so simply I am giving superclass of superclass reference variable here. Okay, now it is capable of, okay, it is capable of it can initialized by any, it's a subclass, okay, like Swiggy or Zomato, or it can also initialized with food panda also. Okay, so here you no need to worry about this thing. Okay, in previous example you should change here also, okay, here also, okay, but here we no need to, okay, worry about this parameter now. Okay, now for example here I passed new panda. Okay, now this base class is initialized with the food panda. Okay, food panda. Now how this food panda order is going to call? So for example I want to call, so order dot food panda order. Okay, food panda order. Okay, so it is not able to call this method. Why it is not able to call? You are here, you are passing food panda. Okay, now it is capable of, okay, holding this object. Okay, this whatever the object you are passing, because this is, okay, subclass of this food order, no? So it is, now this is going to, okay, store in this order. Okay, but you are not able to call this food panda order. Why? Anybody? Anybody? Because here, okay, this object, okay, is going to, okay, store in this order at a runtime, not at compile time. No, so now we should check, okay, which object is, okay, is in the order reference variable. So now I'm going to check if order, okay, instance of, sorry, okay, order is instance of, okay, food panda. Okay, sorry, what happened? Second, instance of food panda. Okay, if this object at runtime contains this food panda, now I'm going to call method from food panda. Okay, food panda dot, yeah, now run this. You ordered from food panda. Okay, suppose you want to order from Swiggy. Okay, you want to order from Swiggy. Now we should write one more condition, like if, okay, if order is instance of, okay, instance of Swiggy, okay, Swiggy, okay, you should call, okay, sorry, new, okay, Swiggy dot Swiggy order, like this. Okay, you should write, and you should write one more condition for, okay, you should write one more condition for Zomato, right? So now I'm going to run this one. See here, you ordered from Swiggy. Okay, so here you are passing Swiggy now. So order, okay, hold the object of Swiggy. Okay, now first it is going to check with this one. Okay, order does not contain the, okay, what a Food Panda, it contains Swiggy, no. So this condition is satisfied and it is going to call the Swiggy order method from Swiggy class. Okay, so for suppose if you have, okay, 100 subclasses for this food order, okay, you should write 100, okay, this kind of what we call if conditions, but it is not good practice. Okay, it is not good practice. Okay, so now here subclasses, no subclass, okay, okay, no subclass overridden this order method. Now I want to force every subclass, okay, Swiggy, Zomato and Panda, okay, should override this order method. I want to force. Okay, so now I'm forcing, okay, every class by using abstract. Okay, abstract method. Okay, see here, instead of giving default implementation, I'm giving abstract implementation. So public abstract void order. Okay, public abstract void order. So here, whenever you have at least one abstract class, then you are also you should declare your class as abstract. No, so now I am making our food order base class as abstract. Okay, now every class should override this order method. Okay, otherwise your class also become abstract. No, so that's why now every class should override this order method. So in previous example, every class has its own order method, but now every class has same order method given by the food order method. Okay, food order method. Okay, so now this implementation, see here, you ordered from Swiggy, you ordered from Zomato and you ordered from Food Panda. Okay, so like this. Okay, so every, now we are forcing every class, okay, we are forcing every class to, okay, override this order method by giving abstract implementation of the method. Okay, so now see here, same here, food order can hold any subclass or subclass object. No, now here simply you are going to call order dot order, order dot order, because here order method is same for every subclass, but implementation is different. Okay, now see here, you no need to touch this food order method. Okay, just while giving the order, okay, you can give the name of the class, okay, from which class you want to order. Okay, see here, I'm going to call this one, you order from Food Panda. Okay, now I'm going to change the Swiggy, changing it to Swiggy. See here, you ordered from Swiggy, and here I'm going to change with the Zomato. See, you ordered from Zomato. See, 3 levels of okay, this program. So here classes are not grouped together in this program. Okay, all are, okay, grouped together by creating one parent class for this. Okay, all these are, okay, all these are food order classes. No, so that's why I created one, okay, food order class as parent class. Now I'm forcing every class should implement this food order, and I have given one default implementation of the order method. Okay, so if you give as default implementation, okay, subclass may or may not implement this order method. Okay, so now what I am doing is, instead of giving default implementation, I'm giving abstract implementation. Okay, so actually abstract implementation is abstract method does not contain any implementation, just abstract definition, okay, of the order method. Now every subclass should override this order method. Okay, now here you no need to worry about, okay, order method. Okay, because every subclass, okay, overridden the order method. No, okay, now see here, if you pass Zomato, okay, so this Zomato can hold in the order, okay, and order dot order. Now this order method called from the Zomato. Okay, If you change it to Swiggy, what happened? It is this Swiggy is going to store in the order, and whenever you call order, now it is going to call from the Swiggy class like this. So this is the usage of the abstract classes. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If you have any doubts, so you can ask.
Sir, why we are using at override here?
So this is actually annotation. So it's not mandatory. Okay, if you remove this, no problem. Okay, Eclipse will give automatically whenever you are overriding a method from superclass. Okay, like this. Okay, if you don't have, if you no need to give this one, but annotation has some purpose. Okay, sir, Arup sir or Bhaskar, do you want to tell about the
Yeah,
annotation?
so I mean, yeah, that's something. It has some other SOC. Some methods are also deprecated methods. Some. I mean, there are many kinds of annotation. So one is that you are overriding something, that is an annotation. Another thing is there if a method is deprecated but you still want to use it, so you can make an annotation. There is a specific annotation, so you can use that to mention it to the compiler. Basically, many kinds of linting error you can avoid by making annotation. So what are annotations? I mean, what are linting errors, and also we are not going into those things. But basically, yeah. So annotation are somewhat loosely coupled messages to the compiler to ignore some kinds of warning or something like that. It has many other purposes also. Yeah. So that's it. So optional.
Yeah.
Just an optional thing that.
Yeah. Okay. So I hope this lecture part is clear for everyone. So if anybody has any doubts, you can ask. Okay. Shall I move to next lecture?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
So what time is your exam tomorrow?
Okay. So now
just 1 second. What
Afternoon,
time is
ma'am.
it? Afternoon, is it? Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, Anand, carry on.
Okay. Okay. So now let me discuss about interfaces.
Sir,
okay.
can you please go one slide up for a second? I will want to write something from there. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Done. Thank you.
Okay. So now interface. Okay. So in abstract classes, we may have the abstract methods. Okay. We may not. Okay. So in abstract class, without abstract methods also, we are able to define a class as abstract. So for example, I created one class, but I want to restrict the class from creation of the object. I don't want to create object for my class. Simply I can make my class as abstract. Okay, so that is one use of the abstract keyword. Okay, but here interface is purely abstract. Okay, so by default every method, by default every method in the interface is abstract. Okay, for example, if you not mention abstract keyword before the method in an abstract class, in an interface, okay, so automatically compiler will add the abstract keyword, public and abstract, both keywords to the method, because every method in the interface by default abstract. And if you want to if you declare any variable in an interface, that is final by default. Okay, so if you try to initialize if you try to declare a variable without initialization, it will give an error. Okay, by default every variable or data member in an interface is final. Okay, so here interface is a collection of abstract methods and final data members. Okay, so see here. So interface. See. So here we have two interfaces. Okay, interface A and interface B. See here, just I here I declared a variable int A is equal to 20. Here I not added any final what we call a final keyword. I not added to this variable. No, so even it is not giving any error. Why? Because okay, compiler automatically will add these things, public static final, to this variable. And see here, public abstract void display. Okay, here you have added this public abstract to the void display method in interface B. In interface A, you not added any public abstract keywords to the show method. Okay, even it is not giving any error. Okay, it is not giving any error. Okay, why? Because compiler automatically will add this public abstract. Okay, so by default every method in the interface is abstract, and by default every variable in a class is final. So if you try to declare a variable without initialization, see here, initialize final field A at declaration. Okay, we should give some value 0. Okay, so this thing. Okay, now see here, if any class implement an interface, it should provide concrete code for each abstract method. Okay, so if any class implements any interface, so whatever the abstract methods in that interface should override in that implemented class. Okay, so otherwise your class become abstract. Okay, so see here, interface A and interface B. Okay, now it is implemented from both A and B. Okay, so we at class level multiple inheritance is not possible, but interface level multiple inheritance is possible. Okay, you cannot extend more than one class. Okay, but you can implement more than one interface, because here interfaces has the abstract methods. Okay, abstract methods, purely abstract methods. It does not contain any implemented methods in it. Okay, implemented methods in it, so there is no problem with the interfaces. Okay, you are able to implement more than one interface in a class. Okay, if you want to for example, if there is one more interface, interface C, you can also implement that interface into this IMPL class. Okay, so here for example, it is not overridden any abstract method from A and B. Okay, see here, it is going to give a compile time error. It is going to ask unimplemented methods. Okay, we should implement this unimplemented methods. Means we should give concrete implementation of this show method and display method. Okay, so so here you can write your own implementation here. So as of now, I'm not giving any implementation here. Okay, just I want to tell, whenever you implement any interface into any class, you should override whatever the abstract methods in the interface. Okay, that's it. Okay, next. So see here, Java interface.
Sorry to disturb, sir. May I ask one question?
Yeah.
So whatever interfaces we are implementing here, all the methods inside all those interfaces must be overridden in the class that we are implementing. We are defining, sorry. Is it?
No, abstract methods. Whatever the abstract methods in the interfaces.
Yeah, that is what. No? If we are implementing the interfaces, suppose there are 3 interfaces, and whatever will be the abstract methods defined inside that interfaces, then all those should be overwritten.
Yeah.
Each and all. Correct, no?
Yeah. For example, one more interface is there. Okay, interface C. Okay, interface C. Okay, so here I'm going to write. So, for example, F1. Okay, now I'm adding one more interface here. So now it is going to give error, like add unimplemented methods. Okay, so why it is giving this error? Can you tell?
Because we
Why
are
it is giving error?
implementing the interface, but we are not
Yeah, so you
overriding it.
implemented this interface, but you not overridden, you not provided implementation for this abstract method from interface C. No, so it's mandatory. Okay.
So can an interface have a private method?
No, it should not have a private method. So if you have private, you not able to override. No, it's not possible to override the private methods. So by default, every method in the abstract, in an interface, public abstract. Okay. So up to Java 1.7, okay, interface is purely abstract. Okay, we have only abstract methods. From Java 1.8 onwards, okay, Java interfaces extended to allow static and default methods. Okay, static and default methods. Okay, see here, static and default. Okay, you can write static methods and default methods also. Okay, so why you are not able to write non-static methods? Because we not able to create an object for interface. Okay, we are not able to. So if it is non-static method, we should call it by using the object reference. No, so we cannot create an object. We are not able to create an object for interfaces. So that's why. Okay, so we are able to write static methods as well default methods from Java 1.8 onwards. Okay, so if you try to write if you write a program, okay, with static and default methods in your program, okay, so if you try to compile your program in JDK 1.7 version, it will generate an error. Okay, so these static and default methods are introduced in the interface from JDK 1.8. Okay, so default and static methods are allowed in the interfaces from Java 1.8 onwards. Okay, so see here, for example, if two interfaces has same default implementation, for example, see here, for example, here I have added. So see here, interface A and interface B. Okay, interface B. See here, if these two are abstract, okay, if these two are abstract, there is no problem. Okay, there is no problem. So here IMPL class is going to override this display method. But here these two are has same what we call default implementation of the display class. Okay, display class. So in this case, we should give fresh implementation in the implemented class. Okay, so if it is static, okay, this should be done in both the cases. Okay, if two interfaces has same default or static methods, then its implemented class must provide fresh implementation. Okay, see here, this default void display, here default void display. Okay, so here interface A and interface B. For example, if you implemented your class from A, so there is no problem. Okay, there is no problem. Okay, you can create an object for IMPL class. Okay, IMPL class. You can call. Okay, you can call this display method directly. Okay, but for suppose if you implemented your class from A and B interfaces. Now these two are having same default implementation. So if you create an object for IMPL, okay, and you are trying to call display method, okay, from which interface it should call? So there is a confusion now, because this is not abstract implementation. Okay, this is default
Same like
implementation.
multiple inheritance.
Yeah, same like it. So in this case, okay, it's implemented class should give the fresh implementation. Okay, fresh implementation. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, what happens if interface A has a static display and interface B has void display, and then IMPL implements both A and B?
Can you repeat once? What?
Interface A has a static display.
1 second. So static, okay.
And then interface B has default void display, as you like it is right now. What happens in this case, sir?
Oh, in this case, yeah, I think there is no confusion because you can call as it is static, no? As it is static, no? So you can call this display method directly by using the class reference. It is default, no? So you cannot call this directly by using, sorry, we should call it by using the object reference of this IMPL class. Okay, I think I'm not sure. So Arup sir or Bhaskar, do you want
You can just write one line of code and try it out.
Oh, okay,
sure.
okay.
I don't think. I don't know.
Okay. So here, yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm going to call IMPL. Sorry, IMPL dot. So
display.
What is the question? I didn't get it.
Yeah, I also did not.
So in interface A, display method is given as a static method. Interface B, there is a default implementation, which is default to void display. So is when you implement it, will it create a will it give a compiler error or a runtime?
No, I don't think so. Can you implement it? Because one has to be called against the class name, that interface name. Like the first one has to be called as a dot display.
Yeah, I think.
And for the second one, you need to create the object, right?
Yeah. So
you have to implement this. Yeah, new then
IMPL dot display. Yeah. Now for first line, line number 18, it is going to call from the A interface. So new IMPL dot display. So it is going to call from the interface B. Okay. So 1 second.
Anand sir, can I add something?
Yeah.
Just one thing, like after Java 9, like onwards Java 9, in some cases, like we can use the private methods also inside the interface. If the particular method has to be called by the default implementation. So you can have private method as well as private static method also in these cases. But the particular methods has to be called only by the default, like implementation which is used inside the interface. So it cannot be used from outside of the interface. Yeah. Thank you, Anand.
Okay. See here.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir. You have said that interface A and B, when both have default method, we have to implement it again in IMPL.
No. First one inside A, it's a static method. No, static method means it is not
both are
binded to
default. If both are default, interface A have
the
default
first
method.
one is a static method.
If both are default.
If both are default.
Arup, I think she's asking the case where both are default. Yeah, Pretty Jane, yeah, please. What is your question? If both are
Ma'am, if both are default methods, we have to implement it in IMPL. And how will we get that whether it's display A or display B?
It will not be display or display B, right? It will
be
the overridden.
IMPL, IMPL display, right? That's why we have a.
Then how? Then both will run at runtime.
No. Then the IMPL display will only run. That is
so in such case, In such
what
case,
we will get
yeah.
output.
No, in such case, if both are default in A and B, we should provide fresh implementation. No.
When we do fresh implement, I am asking what will be the output.
The output would be the one that you define in the fresh implementation. So
yeah.
Let's say you write system.println IMPL inside the overridden method in class IMPL. So whenever you run in runtime, it will give you what you have given the implementation of display inside the class IMPL.
Okay, sir. And if I want the implementation, what we have done in interface A and B, I want to display this is A display, then what we will do?
Okay, I will show you. I will show you. I will show you. Yeah. So 1 second. So like this, no. Now it should give. You press a fresh implementation. Okay. So yeah, already it came. Okay. So now what I'm doing is copy and paste. So this is IMPL, no? IMPL. So these are interface, no? This is A display, this is B display. No, so for it's okay. IMPL obj is equal to new IMPL. So obj dot display. So if you run this, okay, it is only calling IMPL class display. But what you are asking is, I want this implementation also. Okay. So from A interface implementation and B interface implementation. No. So now, yeah, actually, in case of classes, if we want to call super class implementation also, we should use super dot method. Okay. So in interface, it somewhat different, like A dot super dot display, like this you can call.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, one second. Okay, I think you are also able to call B like this. Now see, okay, you got all the implementations.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, anybody has any doubts? If anybody has doubts, so you can ask me. Otherwise, I will move to next lecture.
Sir, I have query from Java lecture 4.5, week 4, activity question.
Okay. Activity question.
4.5.
Okay, we'll discuss when 4.5 will come. Okay.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Okay. So for suppose if a class wants to extend a class as well an interface. Okay. For suppose, see here. I will take a notepad. Okay. So see here. I have a class A. Okay, class A and interface. Okay, interface B. Okay. So leave about this what this class has and what this interface has. But now I want to create a class C. Okay, C. I want to create a class by extending class A as well interface B. Okay. So now in this case, okay, class A should come first or interface B should come first. Means whether we have to write extends A first or implements B first.
Extends A.
Yeah, so extends A should come first. Next, implements. Okay, implements B should come next. Okay, so this is the last point. Okay, so see here. So if any class want to extend another class and an interface, okay, it should inherit the class and implements an interface. Okay, so if you try to implement a class first, next you want to extend a class next, it will give compile time error. Okay, so I hope this part is clear.
Excuse me, sir. Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, in this case, what will be the hierarchy? The one you wrote in Notepad.
Hierarchy means
hierarchy, which will be at the top.
Class will be in top.
Then interface and then child class C, is it? Or it is A, C, and then B?
No,
Why
A and B are not in the same. I mean, they
no,
they are
these
not comparable,
these two are
right?
different.
In the hierarchy, you cannot fit in A and B because they are not comparable. No? So what do you mean by, I mean, the hierarchy, you mean this inheritance, right?
No, subtype kind of thing, as this super type and subtype.
Yeah, so class A and class B, class A and interface B are not comparable, right?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Be something like A and B will be at the same level and C will take it from both. Of course, multiple inheritance is not permitted, but this is one way of doing it.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, shall I move to next slide?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, and the interface, you said that if two interfaces are the same default methods, then the implemented class must provide a fresh implementation, sir.
Yeah.
You said that the same thing also applied for static methods if there was a clash. That if there are two clashing static methods, then the implemented class would have to give a fresh implementation, right, sir?
Yeah.
Sir, but I tried running it on a IDE, sir. Even if there's a clash between the static methods, the implemented class doesn't have to provide a fresh implementation. If I just call A.show and B.show, they both should work, sir.
See, for the static method, you cannot have the overriding. No, in that sense, it's always called by the class name. So there is no ambiguity, right? If it is on the interface A, you will call as a dot whatever.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I understand that, sir. So therefore, overriding should. I mean, like the implemented class must give a fresh implementation only if the classing methods are default.
Non-static. Yeah, non-static. Yeah. Yeah.
Default. Okay,
sir.
Okay, sir.
Static in that sense do not overrideable or that kind, right? So if the overriding thing is not coming at all in the scenario, like there is no question of why the thing will have. Static call is very straightforward. Class.name or interface.name. So whatever you specify, that will be called.
Okay, sir. Got it, sir.
Okay. Shall I move to next slide?
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Now, private classes. Okay. So you can declare a class inside of another class as a private member. Okay, it is also possible in Java. Okay, you can write a class as a member of another class. Okay, so it is possible in Java. Okay, but when to make a class as private member of another class. Okay, so for suppose here a use case like book my show application. So if you take book my show application, so in book my show application we are going to book the tickets. No, so first you are going to select your location. Okay, so according to the location it is going to give a movie theaters list. Okay, so you are going to select a particular movie, and how many tickets you want, you can select by using the chart. Okay, so finally you should make the payment, right? So here book my show class is going to use the payment class, in order to make the payment. Okay, make the payment. Okay, so here a class user. Okay, user is going to use the book my show class, not a payment class. Okay, it is going to use the book my show class to book the tickets. Okay, but here book my show class, okay, should use the payment. Okay, so without payment we should not give a chance to book the ticket, no. So here book my show class is going to use the payment. Okay, so here this payment class has some sensitive information, okay, like card number and CVV, expiry date. Okay, like this, where it has some sensitive information. Okay, so if you declare this payment class as public like this, it is also available to other classes in the program. Now I want to, okay, I want to hide this implementation of the payment class. I want to, okay, I want to made available to only book my show. Okay, I want to, okay, I want to available this payment class only to the book my show. How is it possible? Okay, so you can, okay, you can declare this class as a member of the book my show class. So here I'm nesting this class into the book my show class is possible in Java. Okay, so you should use private, okay, before this class. Okay, you can use this public also, but if you want to provide, okay, if you want to provide what we call security for this payment class, okay, you should make it as a private. Okay, outside of this class you should not you are not able to make this class as private, but inside of the class is possible. Okay, so outer class cannot be private, but inner class can be private. Okay, so because it is a member of another class, no, so then you can make your class as private if it is a inner class. Okay, see here, so inner class. So before that, for suppose here class book my show is there. So here user, okay, user ticket. Okay, so user ticket class is going to book the ticket by using book my show. Okay, so he is going to call the book ticket method from book my show. Okay, so here this book my show class, okay, is going to use the payment payment class, and it is going to check whether payment is done or not. If payment is done, then it is going to display tickets booked like this. Okay, now see here what happened if it is, okay, if it is outside of the book my show class. So now this user ticket class is also able to, okay, use the payment class like this is equal to new payment of, no. So this is also able to access this payment class. So this is a security concern, no. So now what I am doing is, okay, instead of, okay, now I want to, okay, made available this class only to the book my show. Okay, so now I am nesting this okay, class payment as a member of the book my show class. Okay, see here in this example, see here, instead of, okay, instead of writing outside, okay, now I'm using this class payment as a member of the book my show class. Okay, using private keyword. Okay, so private class payment. Okay, now this you are not able to access outside. So see here, try to create an object for payment. So payment. Okay, so payment, see here, is showing error. Okay, it is giving some suggestions like create constant payment, create local variable payment, create field payment, create parameter payment, like that. Okay, so now it is only available to the, okay, only available to the book my show class. See here, now I'm going to run this one. So tickets booked. Okay, now see here, here also it is give same output. Okay, see, only the difference is Okay, only the difference is here user ticket class can able to access this payment class here. Okay, but here user ticket class not able to access this payment class, because what I have done here I'm making this class payment as a member of the book my show class. Now no other class can access this payment class. So in this type of situations, we can make a class as a private inner class. I hope it is clear. If anybody have any doubts, you can ask. So, anybody has doubts on this?
No doubt, sir.
Okay, so here, okay, I'm making this class inside of the book measure. Okay, now I'm moving to lecture 4. Okay, so interaction with state. Okay, see here, already in previous lecture, okay, so state is represented by the, okay, instance variables of the class, no? So these are the instance variables. So here I have one class student. Okay, I have one class student. Now I want to change this state, means this instance variables of the class. Okay, so here here these variables, okay, are, okay, these variables are declared using private. Okay, because here I want to provide encapsulation for my class. Okay, encapsulation for my class by using private variables, and you can access these variables, or you can change value of these variables using only the public methods. Okay, so mutator methods and accessor methods. Okay, accessor methods. For suppose outside of this student class, for example, I have one class like a test class. So in that test class, okay, I created, okay, 60 objects, student 1 to student 60. In my class I has 60 students, for example. So student 1 to student 60. So here student 1, okay, student 1 has different roll number, name and age, and student 2 also, okay, has different roll number, name and age. So here name and age may be same, but roll number should be different from student to student. No, so now we should use the mutator methods. Okay, mutator methods to, okay, update the object. Okay, manipulate the object, like student 1 dot, okay, set roll number, student 1 dot set name, student 1 dot age. Like that we should call 3 methods for student 1, and we should call 3 methods for student 2 up to 60. Means total 180, okay, 180 methods, okay, mutator methods we should call, okay, in order to manipulate the objects. Okay, so instead of updating, okay, this roll number, name, age one by one, okay, I want to update as a whole. Is it possible or not? Okay, it is possible. Okay, so instead of using the separate mutator methods, I'm using this method, set student. Okay, like this. Okay, set string. Okay, sorry, set student. Okay, string roll number, okay, name, int age. Okay, by using this like this also, we are able to, okay, update the object. Okay, roll number, name, age. Okay, so in previous class, here we need to call 180 methods, okay, to update the objects. But here 60 methods, sorry, 60 methods means we should call this method 60 times to update each and every object. So from student 1 to student 60. Okay. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Shall I move to next lecture, or if anybody have doubts, you can ask.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now callback methods. Okay. So what is callback method first? Okay. So callback method, okay, should not call by the, okay, should not call by us explicitly. Okay. It should call whenever some event is occurred. Okay. Whenever particular event is occurred. Okay. So that is the purpose of the callback method. Okay. We should not call callback method explicitly. Okay. It should call whenever particular event is occurred. Okay. So in order to explain this Java callback method, so this I took this example. So here I have one interface notification. It has one method. Okay, notification. Okay. Now I'm forcing. Here I have two classes, working day and weekend. Now user want to know whether today, okay, whether today working day or weekend. Okay, today is working day or weekend, user want to know. Okay, but user, okay, not at all call this notification method from working day or weekend. Okay, who should call this notification from working day or weekend? Timer should call. Okay, timer will decide. Okay, will decide which callback function should be called. Okay, should be called based on the event occurred. Based on the event occurred. Okay, so here I created, here user is going to start the timer. Okay, now timer will start and it is going to decide. Okay, it is going to decide which notification should be called, whether notification should be called from working day or weekend. Okay, so weekend, here I'm giving, okay, input as date. Okay, in order to get whether in order to get the day, in order to get the day, whether today is Monday or Saturday or which day. Okay, so in order to get, okay, today. Okay, so I given so date object as parameter. Okay, now I'm going to show concrete implementation of this one. See here. Yeah, see here. So here interface notification. So working day and weekend both are implemented from notification. Okay, so here notification is a callback method. Okay, so this notification method, okay, should not called by the user explicitly, and it should not called by the working day or weekend explicitly. Okay, it should call by the timer. It should call by the timer, and a timer will decide which notification should be called based on the event. Okay, see here, user, okay, created an object for timer and he is going to start the timer. Okay, so by passing date object as parameter. Okay, so now, so whenever you call, okay, this start method, okay, control is come to here, no, come to here. It has one reference variable of notification. Now this notification is capable, it can be initialized by, okay, it can be instantiated by either working day or weekend, because this notification is implemented in both working day and weekend. Okay, so now I'm going to check, okay, whether today is Saturday or Sunday. So if today is Saturday or Sunday, then we should call, okay, we should call notification from weekend, no, weekend. Else we should call notification from working day. Okay, okay, so see here, working day has implementation of the notification like today is working day, please stay on your work. And weekend, okay, weekend has notification implementation like today is weekend, okay, today is weekend, enjoy the day. Okay, so here timer will decide. Okay, So whether notification should call from the working day or weekend. Okay, so based on this event. Okay, first suppose now I'm going to execute this program. So what is the which callback method is going to call by the timer? Okay, so see here, I not told this, no. So here getDay method is there, no. So this getDay method will return values from 6 to 7, sorry, 0 to 6. Okay, 0 to 6. Okay, so 0 is nothing but Sunday. Okay, 0 is nothing but Sunday, and 1 is nothing but Monday. So up to so on. Okay, up to so on. 6 is nothing but Saturday. Okay, Saturday, like this. Now you tell me. So if you execute this program, first, what this getDay method will return? What this getDay method will return? Yeah, anybody? Am I audible?
So depending upon current
Yes,
day,
sir, you're audible.
it will return a number.
Yeah, which number it is returning? Whether 1,
is-
2, 3, or 4, or 5, or 6? From
Yes, Saturday
0
or
to
Sunday.
No, if 0 or 6, then it is giving
6
the
or 0, Saturday or Sunday.
now I am asking, if you execute this program, okay, if you execute this program, what will be the return value of this getDay method? That is I am asking. See here, I given hint, no. So if today is Sunday, it will return 0. If today is Monday, it will return 1, like that. Now if you execute this program now, what it will return?
6.
Yeah, so 6, no. So now it is going to call which notification method from?
Weekend.
Notification method from?
Weekend,
Yeah,
sir.
which class? Weekend, no?
Yeah.
Now see here, today is weekend, enjoy the day. Okay, we cannot decide. Okay, we cannot decide which callback method should be called. Okay, only timer will decide which callback method should be called. Okay, which callback method should be called. So for suppose, if you execute this program tomorrow, what happened? Will it give same? Same. Why? Why same?
So getDay is 0 now, so there's no or.
Yeah, so if
between.
you execute tomorrow, it will give, okay, it will return 0 because tomorrow is Sunday. So if you execute this program day after tomorrow, what happened? The callback method called from working day or weekend. If you go execute this program day after tomorrow,
Working day.
yeah, working day, because it will return 1. Okay, Monday is 1 is nothing but Monday, no. Okay, so now this condition is not satisfied if you execute day after tomorrow. So now it is going to call notification method from working day. So this is a callback methods concept. Okay, so callback method called whenever particular event is occurred. Okay, it should not call by the user explicitly.
This is the getDay is a built-in method.
Yeah, getDay is built-in method and it is deprecated.
Excuse me, I got disconnected in the middle. I had a question about the abstract classes, man.
Oh, I think you want to ask from lecture 1, right?
No, I just wanted to ask if what is the difference between extending and implementing an interface? Can you extend an interface? That's what I wanted to ask.
Can you repeat once?
What is the difference between extending and implementing an interface?
Okay, extending a class and extending a class or abstract class, you're asking?
Abstract class, man. No, not an abstract class, an interface, man.
Okay.
May I know who's speaking? Sorry, may I know who's speaking?
Akash More.
Akash, yeah. Akash, so when is it that an interface is extended? Can you give me the example when an interface is extended?
That's the point. I'm not sure about that.
So what do you mean by extending and implementing? What is the difference? So what the difference that you've generally seen when you are implementing an interface, you have to override all the methods, or not override, define all the methods that have been defined in the interface, right? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But when one interface, can one interface implement another interface?
Yes, ma'am, they can, I believe.
Then how will you do that? Like, so in that case, you have to define the method which is stated in the first interface, right? The parent interface, no?
Yeah, ma'am.
Then this is not an interface anymore, right? And it's not a default implementation. You are going to define that method in the first interface. Say you have a child interface and you have a parent interface. Suppose you're saying that interface, child interface implements parent interface. Is that possible?
But you won't be able to do that now, because in the second one you have to override it.
Yeah, then you can extend that interface.
Okay, so you extend when, can you make it a condition, ma'am?
Yeah, interface can extend another interface because it cannot have a definition of functions which are there in the parent interface, right?
Okay, ma'am. Got it.
Got it. No? So when a class can implement an interface because it is going to implement all the methods inside that interface. An interface cannot have definitions of all the methods in the parent interface. So an interface will extend another interface, whereas a class will implement an interface.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I have a query from activity question 4.5.
Did we reach 4.5 yet?
Ma'am, it's called the
Yeah.
Then ask.
Ma'am, in that first question, we are using thread class. I didn't get that thing, and after that, the output is all three main thread T2 thread. How will that all outputs are right?
So Arup, I think we had discussed this question some earlier live session. No? I don't remember the thread question. We said it. We are just trying to introduce the idea of.
Yeah. It won't be asked like the other.
Yeah. So you don't have to worry about it now because we are anyway going to have it in detail in coming weeks. So for exam perspective, we don't have to worry about it now. And for now, I guess we can. I mean, if you still have a doubt with respect to the concept, we can discuss in the next live session because now we are looking at for whatever is required for.
Ma'am, is this included in tomorrow's paper?
No, you won't be asked. You won't be asked questions on thread.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah. If anybody have any doubts regarding Java callback methods, shall I move to next lecture? Okay. So last lecture about iterators. So basically iterator is used to loop through any data structure. Any data structure. So for example, we have data structures like linked list or any data structure. So it is going to store the elements based on its internal structure. Here iterator does not depend on internal structure of the data structure. So you can loop through any data structure. Loop through any data structure by using an iterator. So is iterator facilitated to get each and every element from the any data structure. So see here how to loop through the data structure. So if you want to loop through the data structure, so we should use two methods. First we should check whether the data structure has the elements in it. So if it has the elements in it, so we should check first by using has next method. So has next method is going to check whether okay, element is in the next location of the data structure or not. Okay, if the element is found, it will return true. Okay, it will return true, and we are going to call get next method. Okay, so based on the return value of the has next method, we are going to call the get next method. So get next method is going to get a value from current position. Okay, current position of this iterator cursor. For example, see here, I'm going to take paint. So paint. Okay, so here, okay, so for example, consider this is okay, this is a linked list. Okay, linked list object. It contains some values like this. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it contains some values like string values like India. Okay, Sri Lanka. Okay, India, Sri Lanka. Okay, so Pak, so Australia. Okay, next West Indies, like this. It has some okay values in it. Now we can loop through this object. Okay, linked list object. Okay, using iterator. Okay, so so iterator cursor. Okay, so initially it will top of the object like this. Okay, top of the object like this. Okay, now okay, we have two methods in an iterator. Okay, so what are the methods we have? So has next and get next. So here has next, we should call has next method on the list object first. Why? First we should check whether element is present in the okay linked list object or not. Okay, so I'm going to call the has next method. So now cursor will move to here. Okay, so here element is found. Okay, element is found, so it will return true. Okay, it will return true. So here what I have done, I called has next method. Okay, has next method. Okay, whenever you call has next method, okay, so it will move to the next location and it will check okay whether element is in the okay next location or not. Okay, so element is there, no, so it will return true. Okay, now I'm going to okay call the get next method. Okay, get next method. So how it will done is, so while okay, while for example iterator object id dot has next. Okay, id dot has next, I am going to check okay based on the return value of the has next method. Okay, if element is found, okay, now I'm going to call the get next method. Okay, get next method like this. So see here, has next and get next like this. Okay, by using these two methods, okay, so iterator can loop through the okay loop through any data structures to get elements from the okay from the data structure. Okay, so here this is the linked list object. Okay, so it is here I written this has next method in while loop. Okay, so first it is going to call has next method now. So your iterator cursor will come will move from here to here and it will return true. Now it is going to call id dot get next method, so it will return India. Okay, so this this while loop executed until okay it return false, no, so again it is going to call a has next method. Okay, now cursor will move to here and it is going to call id dot get next and Sri Lanka will be returned. Again it is going to call okay has next method. Okay, it will return true because there is a element, so it is going to call get next method. So whatever the okay element at the current position will return by using get next method. Again it is going to call okay, has next. Okay, has next. So whenever cursor is here, it is again it is going to call has next method, but there is no element in the next location here. Now there is no element now, so then it will return false. So now loop will be terminated. Okay, so iterator work like this internally. Okay, so is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Dhanya ma'am, I have done. If anybody have any doubts, I can. Arup sir.
Yeah, anybody having anything to ask?
Sir, I have two questions from the mock. I went through the live session, but I wasn't able to quite understand two questions.
Okay. Anand sir, can you open the mock ones?
1 second, sir. Sir, actually, I don't have that mock PDF.
Can you
sir.
stop the presentation? Can you open it?
Okay, okay. So,
Anand, did you get it?
yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, sir, shall I share?
Yeah, mock. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, question 7.
Question 7.
Yes, sir.
This one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So my question was, the correct answer is listed as there is no correct definition for void for p1 dot show, and get period cannot be resolved. This is the answer listed in the answer key. So what I want to ask is, if I had a definition for get period in the planet interface, like default void get period, it would then be a valid function call in class test, right?
You're
Anand,
asking about get period.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Anand, can you
Get
show
period.
the options and answer? Okay. You can just scroll up. You will not get period can be resolved. Yeah, can you just scroll up?
So which one you doubt? P1 dot show or P1
Get
dot
period.
get?
Get period.
Yeah, P1 is static type of P1 is what?
Sir, I want to ask if P1 was declared, if there was a definition for P1 inside the planet interface, then calling it would be valid, right? it would have been resolved in that case, correct?
Yeah. If it is defined inside default method is there inside the planet for get period, then it will be valid. Yeah.
Okay, sir. And so my second question was, default can be considered a kind of keyword for interfaces, right?
Yeah, inside keyword, yeah, default is a keyword for defining the default
Okay, so if I use default in a method for a class, then I'm specifying the access specifier.
No. Default, I don't think you need to explicitly create a default kind of
So
thing.
if I don't write anything, then it is the default access specifier.
Yeah, by default, it's a default. Like if you
Okay.
don't write anything, yeah.
Okay, so I do not need to explicitly cast it as default. And in an interface, if I write default, then I am telling it that if there is no definition listed in the function itself, then you can use this definition instead.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Got it. Thank you so much.
Okay,
thank you.
So anyone else, anything? No, I will. So shall we close the session?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Just last doubt.
Yeah.
The next question is, can you probably explain? I was like confused and I selected the output, first output. I couldn't follow the overall flow.
Okay. So what is your doubt?
So I thought the code generates the output. First, the answer first would be the answer, but it is not that way. So how exactly like last two would be the answer?
Okay. Get and see, most possibly the first error will be that there is no parameter constructor inside the account which is defined, because you are not calling the super explicitly. So by default, it has to go to the default constructor of the account class, right? Which is not defined.
Okay.
And secondly, I need to see the main. Answer, can you go to the main? So account ACC2 get balance and get pan. So get balance and get pan must be there inside account because it's a static type, right? So can I check like get balance and get pan is defined inside account? Get pan is there, I can see. Can you go little up?
Yeah, get balance is not.
Get balance is in.
Anand, can you scroll up?
Because what is your capability depends on your static type, right? So get balance is not there. So that will fail, right?
Okay. Good.
Okay. So anything else?
Nothing from my side.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. So shall we close it, Tanya, then?
Yeah.
Okay, then thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so
sir.
much.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you, Tanya. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Good night, sir. Thank you so much.
Good night.